Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. After the main character dies, he wakes up as Featherine inside of Marvel XDC universe. What will Featherine do inside of Marvel XDC?
Superman, Wonder Woman, and Hulk moved as I had ordered. They took turns with clean beats and no overlap. Thor struck first and slid right. Superman stepped in with two body blows that were short and controlled. He stepped back. Wonder Woman hit with shield and shoulder and exited left. Hulk moved next, low and tight, and shoved Doomsday a step. He did not flare. He did not lift. He kept the monster in the circle. Doomsday reacted with abrupt ferocity. It slammed both fists down and jumped. Thor was there and pushed it back with a ground-level hammer strike. Wonder Woman cut off its turn. Superman kept it from charging the frame. Hulk blocked a backhand with both hands and grunted. 15, Loki said from the rooftop, eyes on his watch. Lantern, widen the frame by 2 centimeters, I said. Vision, match it. Done, Lantern said. Matched, Vision said. 10, Loki said. Cyborg, Batman said, raise civilian broadcast to high and mute commentary. Done, Cyborg said. 5, Loki said. Jean spoke softly. Impact high in 3 seconds. Rotate, Steve said. They rotated without stutter. Doomsday's fist took air. I lowered my palm by an inch. Seal. Doctor Strange's hands moved in a precise final arc. Zatanna added a sharp, simple phrase and locked the northeast. Wanda pushed both hands down and flattened vibration into silence. Fate lowered the ceiling by 1 meter. The lattice clicked into place around the square. The light band from Lantern showed a steady read on all sides. Vision's density anchors hummed in a way only he heard. He nodded once and said nothing. Containment is live, I said. Begin compression. Keep hits random. 120 seconds start now. Doomsday hammered against the frame. The light bent and held. Lantern's jaw tightened. I have it. Anchor, Vision said. He adjusted his phase fractionally and the flex stopped. Strange slid 2 fingers in the air and the seam held tighter. Zatanna raised one hand and spoke one word. Thgees. The northeast saw a visible tightening at the glyphs. Wanda exhaled through her nose and kept the hum solid. She did not play with it. She simply held it. Rotate, Steve said. Thor struck Doomsday across the clavicle and stepped back. Superman punched the gut and moved. Wonder Woman slammed the knee and shifted. Hulk shoulder charged and braced. Each hit was a different angle and a different rhythm. Doomsday turned and slammed its fists into the ceiling. Fate's circle rang once and did not move. Fate's voice was steady. Ceiling holds. 80 seconds, Loki said. Magneto, I said, clear metallic debris inside the frame to the edges. Do not touch the frame. He raised his hands a small amount. Screws, rebar ends, and shards lifted and slid to the frame's inside boundary and settled there. He did not let any piece ricochet. He lowered his fingers. Done. Cyclops, I said, color code the interior floor. Red for weak points. Green for safe footfalls. Marking, Scott said. Strips of red and green appeared on the feed. Steve read them and adjusted the team's footing without breaking rhythm. 70, Loki said. Cyborg's voice cut through. Power grid holding after redistribution. You have steady current for the frame. Thank you, Lantern said. He tightened his construct by a fraction. 60, Loki said. Compression 2%, I said. Begin. The frame shrank by a distance that the eye would not misjudge. Vision sank deeper at the anchors without sinking into the street. Strange brought his lines closer without letting them touch Fate's circle. Zatanna mirrored him with exact timing. Wanda kept the hum matched. Doomsday reacted. It pounded the west side with both hands and shoulder. Vision's face tightened for a moment and then smoothed. Holding. Lantern changed the light from a single sheet into a layered weave that could flex without tearing. Adjusting pattern. 50, Loki said. Superman, Batman said, switch to head feints and body strikes. Do not repeat the last combination. Superman did so at once. Doomsday tried to counter and caught air. Wonder Woman hit at mid-level with a sharp shove. Hulk ducked a backhand and hit the hip. Thor struck the hamstring and moved. 45, Loki said. Compression 2 more, I said. Begin. The frame came in again. The lattice brightened. Strange's hands moved with precise speed. Zatanna spoke low and the seam thickened. Wanda steadied. Fate lowered the ceiling by another half meter. The space felt smaller. The ring felt tighter. Doomsday roared and hammered at the ceiling in a pattern. Fate's circle did not echo the pattern. It absorbed it. 40, Loki said. Jean, Steve said, status. People are clear, Jean said. Only responders remain. No panics near the ring. 35, Loki said. Tony flew at medium altitude and checked thermal. Frame not overheating. Strange seam temperature stable. Wanda seam stable. Lantern at 61%. Vision stable. 30, Loki said. Compression 3, I said. Begin. The ring tightened. Doomsday slammed both elbows out and pushed. Lantern's teeth clenched. Vision leaned into his anchor and spoke through a fixed jaw. Holding. Strange's voice came even and low. Seam is sealed. Zatanna's hands were steady. Lock is set. Wanda grimaced once and then found a pace she could hold. I am fine. 25, Loki said. Rotate, Steve said. No repeats. Thor struck high and fainted low. Superman struck low and fainted high. Wonder Woman hit mid from the opposite side. Hulk slammed the back plates with both hands and moved. Doomsday tried to jump, Fate's ceiling held the height and pushed it back half a step. 20, Loki said. Prepare transport, I said. Phantom route with negative zone dampers. I will hold the pocket interface. Strange, do not open. Fate, present the writ. Zatanna, bind the lock phrase to the writ and the frame. Lantern, you will remain for the post seal. Vision, you will hold until I say release. Wanda, you will keep the seam quiet during the shift. Batman, you will certify civilian clearance. Steve, you will confirm combatants are outside the inner ring. Aquaman, Aurora, Magneto, Cyclops, keep the boundaries clean. Hela, you will speak if any gate opens. Understood, Strange said. Acknowledged, Fate said. Yes, Zatanna said. Copy, Lantern said. Ready, Vision said. Ready, Wanda said. Clear, Batman said. Clear, Steve said. Boundaries are clean, Aquaman said. Air is clean, Aurora said. Ferrous mass is clean, Magneto said. Markers are up, Cyclops said. No gates, Hela said. 15, Loki said. I opened the pocket silently. The interface formed as a flat, dark plane behind the ring. It did not leak. It did not pull. It waited as an address waiting for consent. Order, I said. Dr. Fate raised a hand. A rolled document formed, unrolling into a single clear statement of binding custody under lawful defense during imminent global threat. It needed only acceptance and signatures in force. Signers, I said. Team leads and arbiters. Batman touched the edge with 2 fingers. Steve touched it with 2. Strange touched it with a single finger. Fate pressed his palm to it. The writ accepted. I added my seal without flourish. The interface recognized the bond and opened a controlled depth of space sufficient to house the sealed entity. 10, Loki said. Lock, I said. Zatanna spoke in a steady voice that did not waver. Din Yob. Flow. Ryav. Peak. She fixed the words to the seam points in the frame. The letters sank into the construct and did not glow. Compression 5 to seal, I said. Begin. The frame closed to final width. Thor, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Hulk all planted their feet and forced Doomsday backward step by step until its spine met the frame's inside. It pushed. The inside did not give. The team stepped away in a prearranged pattern that would not leave a gap. 5, Loki said. Brace, Steve said. Hands off at 2. 4, Loki said. Lantern, harden frame, I said. Hardened, Lantern said. 3, Loki said. Vision, ready, I said. Ready, Vision said. 2, Loki said. Team, clear the circle, Steve said. They stepped back on time, each to a marked step. Doomsday swung at Superman's retreat and hit nothing. It hit the frame and the frame did not explode. 1, Loki said. I brought my palm down flat. Seal. Fate dropped the ceiling into contact. Strange pressed the north seam into the cap. Zatanna locked the words. The lantern frame surged and went static. Vision increased density at the exact beat and froze the anchors with no vibration. Wanda pushed the hum into a steady, low tone that erased loose resonances. The interface behind the ring opened to the depth of the pocket and no further. Doomsday struck all 4 sides at once. The lattice did not release. The sound was dull and short. It swung again. The seal held. Hold for 6, I said. No hits through. No external strikes. Everyone froze positions. The thing inside the frame hit the ceiling and the floor. It crouched and leaped. It hit the frame and slid down. Its bones sharpened. It stopped and listened and hit again in a new pattern. The pattern did not travel. The anchors did not echo. The seam did not leak. 4, Loki said. Lantern's voice was calm and steady. 48%. Vision breathed out through his nose. Stable. Strange did not speak. His hands remained set. Zatanna's mouth was a straight line and her eyes were focused. Wanda whispered, I have it. Fate's helm did not move. Sealing is complete. 2, Loki said. Hela raised 2 fingers and then lowered them. No gates. 1, Loki said. I moved my palm outward by a small measure. Transport. The ring slid forward as one piece. The interface opened exactly as far as it needed to. The seal crossed the plane. There was no light show. There was the sound of gravel under a tire and then nothing. The ring was gone. The interface closed with a clean, flat end. The square looked like a broken square again. I kept my hand up for 3 counts and then lowered it. Containment complete. Pocket verified. Lattice intact. No bleed. I have the seal. Lantern let out a slow breath. Frame released. Vision relaxed his shoulders a centimeter. Anchors released. Strange lowered his hands. Seam closed. Zatanna exhaled. Lock is inactive. Wanda dropped her hands and rubbed her thumb over her palm. Quiet. Fate raised his hands from the air. Ceiling dismissed. Cyborg read the grid. Power normal. Tony ran the thermal again. Street safe. Batman's voice returned to routine. All units, stand down from immediate contact. Begin assessment. Clear the square. Steve nodded once. Avengers, check perimeters and casualties. Aid responders. Superman stood still for a second and then moved to lift a slab just enough for 2 firefighters to drag a trapped man out. Wonder Woman took a deep breath and stepped toward a crying child and placed a hand on the mother's shoulder with steady pressure. Thor looked up at the empty spot where the seal had been and then down and moved to lift a fallen pole with ease. Hulk looked confused and then grinned. Gone, he said, pleased. He set a bus upright and patted its side gently. Stay. Wanda leaned on a railing for a breath. Vision stood at her side without speaking. She straightened and nodded to him. I'm good. He nodded back. Yes. Green Lantern flew to the pilot he had set on the roof earlier and checked on him. The man gave a shaky thumbs up. Lantern returned the gesture. Stay grounded, he said, then he dropped back to the ground. Aquaman cracked one knuckle and reset a cap on a mane with careful hands. Aurora loosened her jaw and let the air return to normal currents. Magneto released the last held beam and put it down as if it weighed nothing. Cyclops turned off the hazard flags. Jean lowered her head and breathed out. Logan rolled his shoulders and popped one elbow. Hank closed his tablet. Hela stood on the light pole and lowered her hand. No deaths in the last minute. 3 serious injuries. They live. Logged, I said. I reached into the pocket and checked the ring. The seal was clean. The lattice held. The lock had not slipped. Doomsday hammered against it with the same dull cadence as before. There was no breach. I set a time marker at the interface. I would not forget to monitor. Batman moved through the square with a flat, calm efficiency that made people quiet. He checked door frames, checked cracks, checked the face of the crane driver, checked the eyes of the officers. He said little. People followed his movements and calmed because of them. He finally stood beside me and spoke without preamble. Good seal. Secure, I said. Duration, he asked. As long as needed, I said. We can rotate the lattice and change lock phrases in cycles. Fate and Strange can relieve each other in shifts. Lantern can alternate with core support. Vision can anchor again on schedule. Zatanna and Wanda can rotate and rest. I will hold the interface in the pocket. We will not fail. He nodded once. We will plan shifts. Steve joined us with dust on his uniform. There was a small cut on his forearm. He wiped at it without looking. Casualty count. 3 serious, many minor, Cyborg said through the channel. No fatalities in the last 10 minutes. Steve closed his eyes for a second and opened them. Good. Thor approached. He had a bruise forming on his cheek and blood on his lip. He wiped it with the back of his hand and smiled without force. The beast is caged. Stark, I owe you a new kiosk. He pointed at the crushed remains. Tony snorted softly. I'll buy 3. Superman looked at me. Where did you send him? A lawful pocket, I said. It is not a death. It is a holding cell that respects the rules of both worlds. We will keep him there while we prepare a permanent solution through the proper authorities. The Presence and the One above all have not objected. The Tribunal will not intervene. The pocket is mine to manage. I will report shifts to you all in schedule. Superman nodded. Thank you. Wonder Woman stood beside him and focused on the people. We will stay until the square is fully clear. Agreed, Steve said. Dr. Strange sat on a low piece of wall and rolled his shoulders back. Wong handed him a small bottle of water. Strange took it, drank, and stood again. I can sustain for the next shift if needed. You will rotate, I said. You did well. Rest for now, then return. Fate's helm turned toward the direction of the Tower of Fate. I will hold the night watch. Authorized, I said. Zatanna stood with her hands on her hips and blew out a breath. I will write the lock phrase rotation. Do that, I said. Wanda squeezed her hands and shook them out. I am fine. I can hold the seam for another hour if needed. You will rest for 30 minutes, I said. Then decide the shift. She nodded. Yes. Green Lantern landed beside Magneto. He held out a hand. Good restraint. Magneto looked at the hand for a second and then took it with controlled pressure. Thank you. Flash skidded to a stop next to them with a bright look in his eyes. That was 2 minutes and change. Clean work. Lantern smiled. We did it. Hulk crouched and watched two dogs sniff each other. He smiled at them. Clint picked up a snapped arrow and threw it away. Natasha wiped dust from her cheek and tucked hair behind her ear. Aquaman lowered the pressure cap for a second and then set it again to test. It held. Aurora looked up at the sky and rolled her neck. Jean watched a pedestrian hold a phone with shaking hands and decided not to reach for the mind. She did not need to do it. Logan walked over to Magneto and stood next to him. They did not talk. They watched the square together for a full minute. Magneto's breath slowed. Logan's shoulders loosened. Hank walked to Vision with the tablet open. Your density shifts were exact. I want to set those as baseline. Send me the ranges, Vision said. Sending, Hank said. I kept one hand lifted while I monitored. No pressure wave hit the interface. No seam slipped. The pocket remained still. The writ stood in place with the signatures bright and fixed. The lock phrase sequence remained untouched. Batman looked at the cracked street and then at me. Repairs. City crews will handle surface, I said. I will keep the grid stable. Asgard can move heavy debris with consent. The League can supply labor under civilian direction. Stark can handle specialty materials. Magneto can move beams where safe. No one will step over the line into Reconstruction Command. We follow the city. Good, Batman said. Steve tapped his ear. Fury, you have the summary. Keep SHIELD at a respectful distance. We have this. Fury's voice came through harsh and controlled. Copy. Good work. Thor put his hand on Steve's shoulder with friendly force. You fought well. Steve smiled. So did you. Superman looked at Thor's bruise. Medical is down the block. I have had worse, Thor said. He laughed once and then stopped when he saw a child watching him. He put his hand on his chest and bowed his head a little. The child smiled. Thor smiled back honestly. Hela stepped down from the pole and walked across the square without any sound. She watched an EMT wrap a bandage. She did not intrude. She stopped near me. Your seal is correct. Yes, I said. If a gate opens near it, I will tell you, she said. You will, I said. She inclined her head slightly and returned to her watch. I sent a short, precise update to the upper authorities. It was not supplication. It was a record. Consent remained. No correction came down. I closed the channel. Cyborg's voice sounded calm again. Civil channels returning to normal. We're moving to recovery messages. Send them, Batman said. Tony lowered next to us and put his hands on his hips. I don't ever want to do that again. You will, I said. He grimaced and then smiled a little. Yet. Steve's COMM clicked. Rogers. It was Xavier. My team is clear here. We are on standby for debris support. Thank you, Steve said. Stand by. Eric's voice came through a second later, separate and deliberate. Ginasha is watching. The seal was clean. I will attend the night watch for a period of 1 hour to review the lattice. You may observe from the outer ring, I said. Caps remain. Understood, he said. I looked at the square again. The perimeter held. The people were calm. The responders worked. The teams began to relax in small ways that did not reduce readiness. The world had not shattered. The numbers remained good. Shift schedule, I said. Fate, first sealing. Strange, second. Lantern, you will share the frame with Stewart from the Corps when he arrives. Vision, anchors on quarter-hour intervals with rest. Zatanna and Wanda will alternate seam maintenance in half-hour blocks. Batman and Steve will run ground watch. Tony and Cyborg will run grid and shields. Magneto will observe from outer ring. Jean will monitor civilians. Aurora and Aquaman will keep air and water normal. Hela will watch for gates. I will hold the interface. We will review in 2 hours and adjust. Understood, everyone said. I kept my hand up and felt the seal one more time. It was solid. The monster struck it again. The ring did not move. I lowered my hand by a fraction and kept my eyes on the horizon. We were not finished with the work of the day. The seal held. Chapter 14, Custody in Law. I kept my hand lifted until the seal registered as quiet for 5 full minutes. The square was secure. Responders controlled the scene. Shift teams formed without delay. I opened the council channel and spoke. We convene the Crisis Council now, I said. Private session. Attendance limited to named leads. We meet at the Watchtower Conference Chamber. I will maintain the pocket from here. Begin transit. Acknowledgements arrived in clean order. On my way, Steve said. Moving, Batman said. Understood, Superman said. I will attend, Wonder Woman said. I will be there, Thor said. Ready, Strange said. I come, Fate said. Xavier will attend, Charles said. Magneto will attend, Eric said. I stepped into the Watchtower chamber first. The room was bright and quiet. Earth hung beyond the glass, steady and blue. I anchored the pocket interface as a windowed projection at the far wall with all thought lines sealed and all access controls set to my voice and to the writ signers. Batman entered with precise steps and sat at the near end of the table. He placed a small case at his right hand and kept one palm on it. Steve arrived almost at the same time and chose the opposite end. He rolled his shoulders once and stilled. Superman and Wonder Woman came together and took the side nearest the projection. Thor stood with his hands loosely clasped behind his back and scanned the room. Doctor Strange took a seat, posture upright, cloak at rest. Dr. Fate remained standing at the far side, helm fixed on the interface. Xavier's chair moved in under its own power. Jean had opened a telepathic line to him that he did not use unless needed. Magneto entered last, silent. He removed his helmet and set it at his side, a deliberate sign of respect but not submission. He sat straight. I took the head of the table opposite the projection. I met each gaze in turn. No one spoke for effect. We began. Record opens, I said. Council attendance confirmed, Xavier, Magneto, Rogers, Wayne, Kent, Prince, Thor, Strange, Fate. Advisory observers accepted, Stark remote, Cyborg remote, Wonder Woman as signatory lead, lantern on standby. Agenda: legal status of the Doomsday Pocket, review intervals, release thresholds, transfer jurisdiction, discipline and revocation, public communication, shift rotation, and appeals. Hands or nods signaled readiness. I continued. First, legal status, I said. The Pocket is a lawful holding cell created under Emergency Defense Authority. The writ carries signatures from Fate, Strange, Rogers, Wayne, and myself as arbiters. I propose we formalize it as a joint custody facility under the Council's authority. No single signatory may dissolve it. Dissolution requires full quorum and dual arbiter assent. Batman spoke first, clipped and steady. Define quorum. 8 present with at least one arbiter from each side of the merged structure, I said. For this council, that means at least one Justice League lead and one Avenger lead, plus one magical arbiter. Fate and Strange count as magical arbiters. If one is absent, the other must be present. Steve nodded. Agreed. Strange folded his hands. Agreed. Fate's voice came deep and even. Acknowledged. Xavier's tone was calm. I accept joint custody. Magneto watched me and then the writ window. I accept joint custody with a clause that bars transfer to any government prison without council consent. Add it, I said. No handoff to any national or intergovernmental facility without full quorum and arbiter assent. Batman wrote it to the document. Added. Second, review intervals, I said. Proposed schedule, hourly status audits for the first 24 hours, then 6-hour intervals for 72 hours, then 12-hour intervals until a permanent facility is commissioned or the council decides a change. Strange accepted at once. I can sustain the first 12 hours with rotation. Fate nodded. I will take the night cycle. Steve glanced at Tony's remote window. Tony's face appeared with a short flicker. Stark here. I can automate thermal and stress telemetry. Banner will watch grid load. We'll deliver reports for each audit. Accepted, I said. Add Stark and Banner as technical auditors with read-only access. Cyborg's voice from the screen was firm. I'll mirror their data on the watchtower and lock the logs. Third, release thresholds, I said. We set them now. Baseline rule, Doomsday is not to be released into any open environment. There are no medical furloughs. There are no test outings. The only release scenario is a transfer into another secure pocket or permanent containment structure with equal or superior safety certified by all arbiters and with full quorum approval. Steve's jaw tightened. Agreed. Batman did not hesitate. Agreed. Superman's eyes stayed steady. Agreed. Wonder Woman's voice was calm. Agreed. Thor inclined his head. Agreed. Strange and Fate both said, agreed. Xavier met my gaze. Agreed. Magneto's tone was measured. I accept, with one question. Who defines superior safety? The arbiters define it together, I said. If one arbiter disagrees, we do not transfer. Good, he said. Fourth, transfer jurisdiction, I said. If we move Doomsday between pockets or to a permanent cell, we must decide who holds legal custody papers. I propose shared custody in the names of the Justice League, the Avengers, and the Towers of Fate and Camartage. Asgard will be noted as transit authority only, not custodian. The X-Men and Genosha will stand as oversight witnesses. Thor's answer was immediate. Asgard accepts transit duty as needed. Strange nodded. Camartage accepts custodian status for magical elements. Fate lifted a hand by a fraction. The Tower of Fate accepts the same. Steve looked to Batman. Batman said, League accepts. Steve said, Avengers accept. Xavier spoke with care. X-Men accept oversight witness. Magneto's voice was even. Genosha accepts oversight witness with right to inspect. Fifth, discipline and revocation, I said. If any member violates the seal protocols or attempts unauthorized access to the pocket, that party's access is revoked pending an inquiry. If the violator is an individual within a team, the team lead brings discipline. If the team lead is the violator, the council acts by quorum. Batman's eyes did not shift. Good. Steve nodded. Fair. Strange and Fate accepted with minimal movement. Accepted, they said. Xavier wrote a short note on his pad and looked up. You will need a clear statement for telepaths and for magical senses. We will keep distance from the pocket unless asked to examine. Add that clause, I said. No mental probes of the pocket. No scrying without arbiter request during an audit. No unscheduled observation by unlisted parties. Added, Batman said. Sixth, public communication, I said. We will issue a single, short statement, Doomsday is in lawful containment, no casualties from the seal, recovery ongoing, and further details will be given when safe. Steve and Wonder Woman will deliver it. Tony and Cyborg will support with visuals that show the line of defense but do not reveal the pocket's methodology. Steve nodded. We'll keep it measured. Wonder Woman agreed. We will speak plainly. Tony glanced down and typed. I'll prep a clean render of the frame and the square before and after. No sorcery details. 7th, shift rotation and relief, I said. We finalize the schedule. First 12 hours, Fate on ceiling, Strange on seams, Lantern on frame with Stewart joining at hour 3, Vision on anchors by quarter hour, Zatanna and Wanda alternating seam quieting every 30 minutes, Batman and Steve on ground watch, Tony and Cyborg on grid, Magneto at the outer ring observation with Cap enforced, Xavier in advisory, Thor on call for heavy movement if needed, Superman and Wonder Woman on perimeter patrol. Second 12 hours, reverse roles for rest. No one objected. Fate said, I will take hour 1 now. Strange replied, I will relieve at hour 7. Lantern said over the link, Stewart confirms hour 3. Vision said, anchors set. Zatanna glanced at Wanda's box on the screen. Wanda gave a small nod. I will start. Zatanna will rest first. 8th, appeals, I said. We set the process for any request to change custody. Appeals may be brought by any council member or by the arbiters if they see cause. Hearings require quorum. Decisions require 2/3 and at least one magical arbiter in favor. There is no unilateral override. Agreed, Batman said. Agreed, Steve said. Accepted, Strange said. Accepted, Fate said. Xavier looked to Magneto. Magneto gave a small nod. Accepted. Finally, enforcement, I said. If the pocket shows signs of failure or if an external threat attempts to free the entity, I will lock the interface and take direct custody. In that case, the arbiters will act with me to repair the seal or to move the pocket inside a deeper layer. You will defend the site. No negotiations with any attacker. No bargaining using the entity. The room accepted it without debate. Steve leaned forward slightly. We should also define the condition of the entity. No harm inside. No torture. No experiments. Add it, I said. The pocket is not punitive. It is protective. There will be no harm inside. The pocket sustains the entity in a neutral state with no sensation beyond its immediate environment. No data extraction. No biological sampling. Batman added the language. Added. Thor addressed Fate with respect. If the tower is used for permanent holding, we will honor its rules. Fate inclined his helm. The tower can build a chamber with no exits and no edges. We will do this only with full council approval. Strange said, Camartage will secure the passage. Magneto folded his hands. Genosha will not become a detention site. Our acceptance is for oversight only. No one will ask you to hold him, I said. He accepted that with a single blink. Xavier looked to me. You hold the key. Yes, I said. I will not misuse it. He seemed satisfied. He turned his chair a few degrees and faced the projection. I brought up the pocket feed. The lattice was intact. The entity moved inside the ring with tireless force and learned nothing. The seal did not echo. The lock did not loosen. Strange studied the seam and nodded once. Fate did not move. Batman's eyes flicked across the seal and the logs. Telemetry reads normal. Tony spoke over the remote line. Grid stable. Cyborg mirrored him. Stable. Steve looked around the table. We should walk the procedure for a breach attempt, now, before we break. Agreed, Batman said. Procedure, I said. Step 1, Halem or Asgard or any outside actor does not get near. If a breach attempt comes from outside, we deploy Avengers and League perimeter, Lantern Corps formations, and Asgard transit to lift civilians. Strange and Fate move to a deeper seal. I lock the interface. We call quorum in motion. No one pursues the attacker until the seal is safe. Define deeper seal, Strange said. The pocket folds once more under my authority, I said. You and Fate rebuild in the layer under that fold. Lantern moves the frame inside. Vision anchors to the new coordinates. Zatanna and Wanda shift the seam. It takes 10 seconds if you are ready. 10 seconds, Batman repeated. He wrote it in bold. Superman's jaw tightened. If the attacker is a cosmic entity, call me first. I will, I said. Thor added, and me. Yes, I said. Steve checked the time. Public statement goes out in 20 minutes. We should confirm wording. Wonder Woman recited it from memory. Doomsday is securely contained under a lawful, joint operation. No loss of life occurred during the sealing. Recovery is underway. We thank first responders and citizens for cooperation. We will release additional information if needed. Please avoid the affected area to allow crews to work. Tony added one line. We are not releasing footage of the pocket. Correct, I said. Xavier cleared his throat softly. We should include a promise to review and refine the process to protect civilians further. Add it, Steve said. Wonder Woman nodded. I will include it. Batman looked at Magneto. Any additions for oversight? Public trust requires audits, Eric said. Announce internal audits with outside witnesses named. Do not share details. Share the existence. Accepted, I said. Who are the outside witnesses? Batman asked. Xavier and an Asgard representative, I said. And one rotating civilian ombuds selected by the UN with our veto if compromised. Acceptable, Steve said. Thor answered with no hesitation. Asgard will send a steady hand. Name will be agreed later, I said. Fate took a single step toward the glass. The tower is ready to construct the permanent cell. It will not rest inside a nation. It will not have an address. It will be reachable only through the path we define. Council approval required, I said. Of course, Fate said. Strange looked at the clock. I will sit the first seam after this session. Good, I said. The room settled around the decisions. No one fidgeted. No one tried to move the plan beyond what was needed. I kept the pocket quiet. I watched the lines. I listened to the station hum. It was time to sign. Document roll, I said. A clear pane formed above the table with the points listed. Batman read them once more out loud in order: joint custody, no transfer to government prisons, review intervals, release thresholds, shared custody names, discipline and revocation, telepath and magical observation limits, public statement and audit notice, shift rotation, appeals, enforcement under emergency, no harm clause, breach response and ombuds presence. No one objected. Sign, I said. Steve pressed his fingers to the pane. Signed. Batman pressed his. Signed. Superman pressed his. Signed. Wonder Woman pressed hers. Signed. Thor pressed the Asgard seal with a firm hand. Signed. Strange pressed a sigil. Signed. Fate pressed a mark of weight. Signed. Xavier pressed his name in clean script. Signed. Magneto lifted his hand and pressed a controlled metal point that formed the letters. Signed. I added my seal last. Signed. The pane dissolved into the record and the writ updated with the Council's authority. The pocket recognized the change in custody and logged it. I felt the interface stabilize another small degree. I said nothing about that. It was my work to feel it. Steve looked around the table with steady eyes. We'll hold this line. Batman closed his case and stood. We break. Shift begins, I said. Positions. Fate turned and left without wasting motion. Strange followed with a nod to me. Thor touched a hand to his chest in a simple salute and stepped into the transit. Superman and Wonder Woman left together. Steve and Batman filed out to their duties. Xavier wheeled back and paused by Magneto. They exchanged a few quiet words without heat, then separated. Magneto put his helmet back on and left. I remained and watched the projection of the pocket for 2 minutes longer. It did not waver. I turned to depart. The work continued. Chapter 15, Stones Under Protocol. The seal on Doomsday held through the night. The audits were clean. Fate and Strange rotated the seams without deviation. Lantern shared the frame with Stewart at hour 3. Vision anchored by the quarter. Wanda and Zatanna alternated the quiet layer. I stayed on the interface and logged every stress. At dawn I shifted attention to the wider field and felt the change as a blunt pressure at the edge of the system. Thanos has entered Earth space, I said. Multiple carriers. He seeks the Mind Stone and the Time Stone. Power Stone is not on Earth. Reality Stone is off-world. Space Stone is under Asgard seal in joint custody at Stark Vault. Soul Stone is not in play. Batman's answer was immediate. Locations. Sanctum Sanctorum for the Time Stone, I said. Vision holds the Mind Stone at Avengers Tower under Cap and Guard. Split Assault inbound. Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian to the Sanctum. Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight to the Tower. Thanos himself is not with the first wave. He has landed a separate craft moving toward low orbit. Steve's voice was steady. We split. Correct, I said. Protocol holds. No stone leaves Earth. No stone leaves a custodian without quorum. Sanctum command to Strange. Tower command to Rogers. Batman and Wonder Woman lead League detachments to both sites. Thor holds sky interception. Superman is fast response. Lantern maintains cone control. Wanda counters manipulation. Cyclops and Magneto manage shrapnel. Jean monitors civilians. Aurora controls air. Aquaman handles mains. Zatanna and Fate stay on Doomsday seam. Hela observes and will not claim. Loki maintains written logs. Cyborg and Tony hold grid. I'm at the Sanctum, Strange said. Wong is with me. Doors are sealed, Wang said. Avengers at the tower, Steve said. Vision, stay put. Understood, Vision said. Justice League en route, Superman said. Watchtower broadcasting civilian advisories now, Cyborg said. I drew the paths in clean arcs. I kept the lanes open. I lowered the city's draw by 1% to give the grid room. Then I opened team channels cleanly and set caps. Energy caps at 70 for the first 10 minutes, I said. Avoid repeating patterns. Keep pressure on them. Do not escalate without my call. Thor's voice was calm. I hear you. I moved to the sanctum first. The street outside Bleecker vibrated with an approaching weight. A grey mass hit the pavement and rose Cull Obsidian heavy and armed. Beside him, Ebony Maw stepped with hands behind his back and calm contempt twisting his lips. Doctor Strange, Ebony Maw called. We have come for the time stone. Yield it and the pain will be less. Wang answered from the doorway without raising his voice. This is a poor place to ask for what you cannot carry. Strange stood at his side. He kept his hands level. You will not pass. Ebony Maw raised his fingers and began to pull at the stone in Strange's amulet with intricate pressure from the air. The eye of Agamotto did not open. Strange sword held it shut. Lantern, I said. Green Lantern dropped a cone over the street that stopped the first wave of telekinetic pressure from spreading to the buildings. He pressed the edges down and left the center clear for Strange's control. Cone set. Wanda, I said. I'm here, she said. She lifted her hands and cancelled the minor threads Ebony Maw cast toward civilians. Her focus was tight. Cull Obsidian charged the door. Superman hit him in the chest and drove him back 10 meters. The pavement cracked. Cull got up and roared. Contain, Batman said. Strange moved his hands in a clean circle and threw a portal at the monster's feet. Cull slid and caught the edge with a hammer in one hand. Wonder Woman stepped in and slammed her shield across his fingers. He lost his grip and fell through. Strange closed the portal on his ankle and left the foot on the street. Cull roared again and dragged himself out through a second portal Ebony Maw opened without lifting his head. Change, Batman said. Do not repeat that. Understood, Strange said. Superman hit Cull low and pushed him into a parked bus. Aurora lowered the wind and kept the bus from rolling. Cyclops lit hazard marks for the cameras and for the teams. Red. Red. Green. Ebony Maw changed pressure and tried to rip the sanctum steps apart. Magneto lifted every nail and screw in the porches up into a clean belt and kept them away from the air currents. You will not have loose metal, Magneto said. Thank you, Wang said. A ring opened above the street. Thor dropped through and hit Cull on the jaw. He did not overcharge the strike. It was precise. The monster reeled. He does not like that, Thor said. Ebony Maw tried to lever Thor's hammer from his hand. Thor felt the pull and tightened his grip. No, he said. He threw the hammer at Maw. The telekinetic bent the path. Wanda corrected the path by 1 degree. The hammer clipped Maw's shoulder and broke his posture. Vision, I said into the other channel. Report. Corvus and Proxima are at the tower, Vision said. Steve has drawn them away from the lobby. Natasha and Clint hold the ground level. Banner is moving to emergency posture. Magnetism lines are mapped. Jean is in the stairwell keeping civilians steady. On my way, Steve said. I split my attention. Avengers Tower was under assault from 2 directions. Corvus Glaive moved like a knife and struck at Vision's chest with the blade meant to interrupt phase. Vision stepped backward and took the blow on a density-shifted shoulder. He grimaced and did not drop the Mind Stone's output. Proxima Midnight threw her spear past Steve's shield and tried to curve it back around. Steve caught the return path and yanked the spear out of line. Thor's strike flashed through the window. He was at the sanctum. He stayed there. Wanda, Steve said, I need you. I am on Bleecker, Wanda said tightly. I will reroute, I said. Wanda, maintain at the sanctum for 1 minute more. Lantern, bring Stuart to the tower. Jean, status. Calm, Jean said. No panic. 2 in the stairwell. Flash has them. A blur past Clint and Natasha. They're clear, Flash said, then he stood still again. Staying. Proxima turned and threw at him. He moved before the spear left her hand. It struck empty air and returned to her palm. She smiled without humor. Diana, Batman said. On my way, Wonder Woman said. She stepped through Strange's portal and arrived inside the tower's lobby with shield up. Proxima's expression changed slightly. They moved toward each other without a word. Proxima went low with a sweep. Diana turned her hip and checked the sweep with the edge of her shield. Proxima's eyes narrowed. She attacked again with a straight thrust. Diana deflected. The motion was clean and heavy. Corvus pressed Vision toward a wall. Steve moved in. The glaive hit the shield and sparked. Steve pushed and drove Corvus back 3 steps. Natasha knifed in low and cut Corvus at the thigh. He snarled. Loki, mark, I said. Time stamp on Corvus wound, Loki said over the operations log. His voice was sharp and dry. Logged. At the sanctum, Ebony Maw tried a new line of pressure. He reached into the ground and lifted the plates below Strange's feet. Strange slid and reset and locked the eye against his chest. Wong found his breath and pulled the plates back down with a clean downward sweep. Lantern, Batman said. Reinforcing, Lantern said. He added a subcone below the street to keep rails stable. Cole Obsidian grabbed a car and swung it. Superman caught the car and set it down. The metal groaned. Cyclops marked hazard flags at the car's path. Magneto guided a dozen nails out of a doorway and straightened them in a controlled ribbon, then set them down safely away. You will not find tools here, Magneto said to Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw ignored him and tried to crush Strange's windpipe with a sheet of air. Wanda ripped the sheet in half with both hands. Strange breathed. He nodded once to her. Thank you, he said. Go, she said. Vision, I said, status. Still engaged, Vision said. The blade seeks my core. Hold, I said. Team, force them away from the stone. Steve, move to the service corridor. Vision, left. Vision moved. Corvus followed. Steve changed angle and blocked the glaive thrust with his shield again. The point bit and stuck. Steve twisted and broke the angle. Corvus pulled back with irritation. Proxima looked at Wonder Woman's stance and shifted to long throws. Diana read the rhythm and blocked them or sidestepped them. She did not chase the spear. She waited for the return and moved at the same time. She struck Proxima in the face with the rim of her shield. Proxima hissed and grinned. Wanda, I said, switch now. Lantern Steward is arriving at the tower. Switching, Wanda said. She opened a quick ring through Strange's portal path and stepped through. Steward descended into the Sanctum Street with precise control and set an additional cone on my call. Ebony Maw turned to test its strength. The cone did not buckle. Thor, I said, intercept incoming from low orbit. Thanos is testing lanes. You will not engage him alone. Thor took a breath. Acknowledged. He threw Mjolnir and followed the path into the sky. A carrier split its shell near the exosphere. Thor ripped a wing off cleanly and pushed it away from a satellite. The debris path was narrow. Aurora lowered wind at the ground so nothing would peel away. Cyborg shifted the orbital cameras and logged the track. Tony mirrored power at the grid. Back to me, Steve said. Proxima. Proxima cut him off by stabbing at his knee. He turned and blocked. Wonder Woman closed and took the spear on her shield again. The spear vibrated. Diana pressed forward. Proxima stepped back, teeth clenched. Natasha dove in and swept her leg. Proxima went down on one knee for half a second. Clint fired a glue arrow that pinned the spear hand to the floor for one breath. Proxima tore free at once and rose. Corvus, status? Ebony Maw asked on a private channel. I heard it because I wanted to. Delayed, Corvus said. At the sanctum, Cull Obsidian grabbed a hydrant and tore it up. Aquaman pushed the water back into the pipe and held it like a column. Stop, he said into his own channel. Cull looked briefly confused and then swung the hydrant at Superman. The blow landed on the shield Superman created with his body. The hydrant dented. Wonder Woman was not there. She was at the tower. Green Lantern's cone flickered. Pressure spike. Adjust, Batman said. Adjusting, Lantern said. The cone brightened. Strange lifted both hands and threw Ebony Maw into a controlled fall down the street. The telekinetic did not lose his posture even as he slid. He turned the fall into a slow levitation and smiled without joy. You are delaying. Yes, Strange said. At the tower, Jean was on the mezzanine with eyes open and breath even. Her voice never raised. Elevator door opening on 8. 3 civilians. Scott. I've got them, Cyclops said. He moved with his visor ready. He guided the 3 into a stairwell and marked their path with a firm voice. Down 3, right, out the red door. Do not stop. Thank you, one of them said, shaking. Clint blocked Corvus with 3 quick shots. Corvus cut them aside with the glaive and snarled again. Vision slammed a density fist into Corvus's shoulder. The armor dented. Corvus stepped back and changed his approach. Wanda, Steve said. I'm here, she said. She pulled at the air and broke the return curve of Proxima's spear. Proxima cussed and stepped in close, trying to take Wanda before she could reset. Wonder Woman hit Proxima in the head with the shield and yanked her back by the arm. Proxima spat and spun. Diana did not let go. Her grip was strong. Proxima left the spear and lunged at her with a knife. Diana caught the knife on the bracer. The scrape made a short, ugly sound. Diana, Batman said softly. I see it, she said. They fought without flourish. Proxima's skill was high. Diana's endurance was higher. Proxima began to tire. At the sanctum, Superman and Lantern and Strange and Wong kept the street tight. Cull Obsidian tried to lift the sanctum's face off. Magneto held the last hidden screws with careful focus. He will not break this door today. Ebony Maw switched target to the eye again. Strange held it shut with force of rule and practice. Stewart added a low-frequency lattice that disrupted the fine edges of Maw's telekinesis. Maw frowned for the first time. Featherine, Steve said within our channel. Thanos will go for the Time Stone once his first wave fails. He will, I said. We keep both stones on Earth. Do not attempt transfer. Do not open a gate with a stone in motion. If forced, we move the battle, not the stones. Understood, Steve said. Thor's voice came back from high altitude. 2 carriers broken. He is not here. I return. Return to Sanctum, I said. Leave the tower to ground teams for now. I come, Thor said. Superman heard the word and changed his posture to open an angle for Thor. Thor dropped into view and threw Mjolnir at Cull's face again. Cole took the hit and kept coming. Thor pivoted and hit low. Cole's knee flexed. He fell to a knee and rose at once. Strange bound his ankle with a band of light. Cole broke it and roared. Wang, I said, stairs. Clear, Wang said. Lower ward steady. At the tower, Corvus fainted and stepped to Vision's left. He tried for the core again. Vision densified through the blow and twisted. The blade scratched. He grimaced. Wanda caught Corvus with a red band and shoved him into a pillar. Steve closed and hit him with the shield. The sound was flat and hard. Corvus fell and rolled. Logan stepped forward from the side and slashed. Corvus parried with the glaive and snarled. Was waiting for you, Logan said. He pushed with his legs and kept the blade at an angle. Proxima broke free of Diana's grip and called her spear. Wanda cut the arc and forced it down to the floor. Diana stepped in and slammed her shield into Proxima's throat. Proxima fell back coughing. Natasha slid in and kicked her in the ribs. Proxima grunted and swept Natasha's leg. Natasha rolled to her feet. Vision, Batman said, keep distance when you can. Do not let the glaive point approach the Mind Stone. Understood, Vision said. He rotated his stance and kept the stone away from the blade. At the sanctum, Ebony Maw drew a bead-thin wire of air and tried to cut Strange's fingers. Stuart caught the wire and broke it. No, Stuart said. Your constructs are crude, Ma said. They work, Stuart said. Cull Obsidian charged Wang. Superman intercepted and took the blow on his chest. He slid a foot and held space. You will not pass, he said. He pushed Cull back 3 steps. Wonder Woman was not there to follow, she was still at the tower. Thor took her place with a hammer strike to Cull's shoulder. The joint cracked. Cull shifted his weight and kept fighting. Maintain caps, I said. Do not escalate. Still under, Banner said from the tower. We can hold this pattern. Thanos' separate craft moved low over the ocean. He remained inside. He watched through instruments. He did not smile. Hela stood on a building edge and watched both battles through my relay. Her voice was even. No gates. Continue, I said. Jean spoke again without strain. 2 responders trapped behind a fallen beam in the tower's west hallway. Magneto, I said. I see it, he said. He lifted the beam by an inch. The responders crawled out. He lowered it and set it down with care. Go. Thank you, one said, shaken. He did not answer. He looked toward the fight again. At the sanctum, Strange rotated the shields and kept the eye sealed. Ebony Maw grew impatient and raised half the street in blocks. Lantern broke the blocks apart into harmless pieces. Aurora kept the air pressure where it needed to be. Aquaman kept the water in the pipes. Cyclops kept hazard flags up. Switch, Batman said. They switched positions at once to avoid predictable defense lines. Ebony Maw saw it and changed his rhythm. At the tower, Proxima found a pattern again and pressed. Diana did not give ground. She pushed back and set their distance. Wanda breathed and pulled clean lines. Corvus feinted toward Vision and cut toward Steve. Steve blocked and shoved. Corvus stepped back and reassessed. He was not winning. Thor, I said, intercept the satellite drop Thanos just initiated over the bay. I go, Thor said. He threw Mjolnir straight up and followed. He found a falling mass of metal meant to open like a flower and release drones. He smashed it into a single shape and pushed it into an empty patch of sea. Aquaman shifted pressure and made room. The object sank cleanly. Done, Thor said, dropping back into the sanctum battle. Strange took a deep breath. He will escalate soon. Yes, I said. Hold. At the tower, Corvus tried again for vision. He overcommitted. Logan slashed across his back. Corvus shouted and spun and caught Logan's arm with the flat of the blade. Logan grunted and stepped in rather than out. He headbutted Corvus in the nose. The alien hissed. Steve hit him again with the shield. Corvus fell. Proxima threw her spear in a tight arc meant to return behind Diana's head. Wanda broke the path and grounded the spear on the far wall. Proxima looked at her with real anger. She moved to kill Wanda quickly. Diana blocked and stopped the kill. Natasha stepped in and wrapped a leg around Proxima's. Proxima went down again. Clint, now, Steve said. Clint fired a cable trap that tightened over Proxima's ankles and wrists. She flexed and broke it. Diana slammed her shield into Proxima's face. Proxima's eyes rolled for a second. She was still. Not unconscious. Slowed. Do not attempt capture, I said. Delay and push them to withdraw. Copy, Steve said. At the sanctum, Ebony Maw lifted Strange and began to twist. Strange grunted and set his jaw. He did not cry out. Stuart and Wanda cut the twist from two sides. Strange fell to his feet and set the eyes lock again. Wong stepped in at his shoulder. We are fine. Cole Obsidian swung hard and caught Superman at the hip. Superman exhaled and put a hand on the wound. Blood stained his suit. He looked at the blood for 1 second and then moved back in. Thor swore quietly under his breath and hit Cole harder. Medical later, Batman said. Finish the hold. Understood, Superman said. Thanos' ship lowered toward the atmosphere and then held. He watched both battles. He did not step out. Featherine, Steve said. We can hold, but we need to move Vision off the primary. He is a beacon. Approved, I said. Vision, fall back to the inner vault. Do not separate from the team. Do not open access to the stone. We will not remove it. I will comply, Vision said. He stepped backward under Steve's guard. Wanda stepped between him and Proxima and met the spear return. She caught it with a hex and bent it. Proxima snarled, grabbed the spear, and stepped back. Corvus stood and bared his teeth. He looked toward Ebony Maw's location as if calculating. Sanctum, Batman said. Status. Stable, Strange said. He is not getting in. Maw paused, looked up, and listened to a voice only he heard. He altered his hand measure. Cole shifted his stride. They retreated in 2 steps and 3. They backed away without breaking posture. Do not pursue, I said. Hold lines. They held. Ebony Maw glanced back once at Strange. He touched 2 fingers to his forehead in a gesture with no warmth. He lifted into the air and left. Cole followed with a leap and a ship's pull. They were gone. At the tower, Proxima saw the retreat on the other side and made her own decision. She stabbed at Diana's eyes and used the block to step back. Corvus moved in the same breath. They fell away from the fight and took the exit path they had cut. They did not run. They did not turn their backs either. They left with rule and plan. Hold, Steve said. Hold, Batman said. Thor returned to the tower. Superman stood at the sanctum with one hand over his hip. He straightened. The wound closed under his natural strength. He looked at me and nodded once. I'm fine. Good, I said. Strange set the eyes interlock again. He breathed out and closed the wards. Wong put a hand to his shoulder for 1 second and then withdrew it. Later, Wong said. Later, Strange said. At the tower, Vision put a hand to the stone and stabilized his output. I did not open it. You did not, I said. You will not. He nodded. I will not. I verified Thanos's position. He did not land. He pulled back into higher orbit. He did not call his first wave again. Status, Steve said. Time stone is secure, Strange said. Mind stone is secure, Vision said. Grid stable, Tony said. No spikes. Do we press to space? Thor asked. No, I said. We hold for now. He is testing. We will not overextend. We will rotate defense and prepare for the second wave. Recovery begins around the sanctum and the tower. No one touches the stones. They remain with their custodians. Understood, Batman said. Understood, Steve said. Understood, Strange said. I watched the sky and the ships and the lanes. I watched the stones. I watched the city. I set the schedules and the caps and the doors. I did not step away. The next move would come soon. Chapter 16, Corridor Transfer. Thanos's carriers pulled back. The city held a steady breath. I did not relax. I set the next move. We are moving Vision and the Mind Stone to the inner vault, I said. Custody does not change. Team screens the route. We use sealed corridors only. No roof. No open lobbies. No elevators. No portals in or out while the stone is in motion. If cut off, you hold and call. We adjust the building around you. Steve stood at the tower's central console, jaw firm. Copy. Natasha, Clint, Logan, Diana on point screen. Vision, with me. Wanda, rear cover. Magneto, shrapnel control outside and along the service line. Jean, status of civilians. Jean's voice was calm. Upper floors are clear. 2 custodial staff in the north stairwell, I'll guide them to a safe closet and keep them there. No panic signatures on your route. Good, Batman said through the league line. I'm patching building schematics to everyone's HUDs. I've mapped choke points. If Corvus or Proxima reach you, force them into the low ceilings where spear and glaive arcs are limited. Understood, Wonder Woman said. Vision placed his hand lightly over the Mind Stone and steadied his breathing. I will keep output stable. Keep it low and clean, Banner said, watching the arc reactor displays for interference. I'll smooth power fluctuations on this end. Lantern, keep the sanctum sealed, I said. Strange and Wong, hold the time stone in the inner circle. Thor and Superman, remain on high intercept. No one leaves the city perimeter. Understood, Strange said. Understood, Superman said. Confirmed, Thor said. I lowered the tower's non-essential load by 3%. I locked every external window and air intake along the corridor's length. I shut down decorative lighting so intrusion sensors read cold and clean. I drew a thin band across the floor at every turn so Jean could call distance by color to those who needed it. Move, Steve said. Team 1 took the lead. Natasha checked the first corner and signaled. Clint covered the cross with 2 arrows ready. Logan stood slightly ahead of them, hands loose, shoulders set. Wonder Woman was to the right with shield raised, sword sheathed, eyes moving. Vision and Steve followed in the second rank, close and steady. Wanda kept the rear with both hands ready. Magneto floated 2 inches of metal dust off the floor at corridor bends and compacted it into harmless pellets without cutting his cap line. Door 1, Batman said. Controlled open. The door unlocked for exactly 2 seconds. Natasha pulled it and held it until Clint cleared the far corner. Logan slid through and looked left, then right. He sniffed once and nodded. Clear. Move, Steve said. They passed the first junction in rhythm. I sealed the door behind them. The building felt different now, with intent in its bones. The Mind Stone's signature sat, held, and did not flare. Vision's control was exact. Jean's voice came through again, steady. Corvus rising from the west sublevel. Proxima from the south vestibule. They will try to pincer. You have 80 seconds to the first choke. Pick up the pace, Steve said. Clint shifted to a backward walk and kept his sight down the hall they had just cleared. Natasha flicked her eyes at him and then forward. Logan pushed the next door open with his shoulder and moved through. Diana kept her shield angled so a throw would skid. Wanda pressed both hands down for a moment and cut a faint manipulation moving along the ceiling. Corvus is fast, Jean said. He plans to cut ahead. Batman? Steve asked. Lock the service hatch at Junction Bravo, Batman said. I'll give you the straight path. I sealed Bravo. Corvus hit it a breath later. His glaive struck the seam. He dragged the blade down and tried to pry. The weld I imposed was not metal. He felt nothing to leverage. He hissed and tried the floor grate. Magneto kept the screws from turning and said nothing. Wanda spoke without strain. He is frustrated. Do not taunt, Steve said. I won't, she said. Wonder Woman glanced toward Steve and then toward Vision. Keep close. I am with you, Vision said. They reached the first choke. Ceilings were low, walls close, floor clean. Batman's voice was clipped. This is the most dangerous bend. Natasha, Diana, hold. Clint, mark the cross. Logan, noise. Logan dragged his claws lightly across the far wall. The scrape was controlled. It drew Corvus's attention to the wrong angle. Corvus pushed into the bend with his glaive high, ready to hook Vision out of the line. Natasha slid low and cut his ankle. Diana stepped in and drove her shield into his chest. Corvus clanged off the wall and hit the floor, breath punched out. He rolled and thrust upward. Diana blocked. Logan's boot met Corvus's wrist. The glaive skittered 2 feet. Wanda, Steve said. She pulled Corvus's wrist an inch farther with a snap of red and then released. He missed the glaive by 2 inches. Clint fired 2 shots in rapid succession. The first arrow pinned the glaive's shaft to the floor for 1 heartbeat, the second took Corvus at the shoulder with a concussive head that kicked him back. Corvus growled in pain. Do not press, Batman said. Back up and move. They did not gloat. Diana moved, shield still high. Natasha slid back, eyes never leaving Corvus's face. Logan walked backward, hands ready, lips curled very slightly. Vision and Steve passed the bend. Wanda followed and swept the floor with a quick curl of energy to erase their step noise. I sealed the cross door behind them. Corvus rolled to his knee and watched it lock. Proxima 30 meters, Jean said. She's matching your pace on the south line. Clint, line up, Steve said. Clint loosed an arrow into an empty turn and let it sit as a marker for his angle. Proxima came into the bend and took the arrow on her spear without even looking. The head burst into glue. She tore through it and kept moving. Natasha kicked a service panel open and flung a flash inside that bloomed white and loud. Proxima's face twisted by a degree. She did not stop. Diana, Batman said. Diana stepped into the narrowest point and set her shield so Proxima had to either try a high throw or step in close. Proxima tested the throw, the spear clipped the shield and sparked. She called it back with her palm. Diana entered on that return and shoved the shield into Proxima's throat again. Proxima tried to slide to the right. Logan's shoulder was already there. He smiled once, harsh and pleased. She drew a knife and swiped at his ribs. He backed an inch. The knife scraped. He did not flinch. Wanda pushed Proxima's balance left by a hair. Clint hit the wrist with a stun tip. Natasha cut the calf. Now go, Steve said. They passed the second choke and reformed. I locked doors 1 and 2 behind them. The corridor opened for 30 yards. I did not like it, but it was necessary to reach the inner vault access. Jean. Steve said. Corvus regained his glaive, she said. He is fast and angry. Proxima is steady. She will try to push you into open space. Hold the line, Batman said. Magneto spoke for the first time since the route began. The external frames are secure. No drone will break your corridor. Thank you, Steve said. Vision raised a hand as if to touch the wall and did not touch it. The Mind Stone is calm. Keep it that way, I said. Steve, next turn has a trip hazard if they shatter the fire damper. I set a catch, but do not rely on it. Copy, Steve said. They hit the last bend before the vault. Corvus appeared at the far end of the straight as if he had always been there. His eyes were flat and focused. He flicked the glaive and sent a small crescent across the floor to cut ankles. Logan stepped on it and crushed it. He grinned with too many teeth. No. Corvus ran. Diana met him with the shield at a tilt that sent the glaive's next arc into the ceiling. Concrete dust fell. Corvus did not inhale. He learned fast. He dropped low and tried to hook Vision's leg. Natasha slid on her hip and kicked the glaive's shaft with her boot. Her ankle took the jolt. She clenched her jaw and didn't cry out. Clint checked her from behind and lifted his bow again. Proxima arrived from a side door that should have been sealed. She had angled through a maintenance shaft that I had missed because it had been added during a renovation before Stark owned the building. I locked the shaft mouth behind her. The spear flashed past Diana toward Vision's head. Wanda yanked it aside, hard and clean. The spear carved a gouge in the dry wall. Vision flinched and kept moving. Adjust path, Batman said. Left fork. Double door ahead. On it, Steve said. He shifted and pressed Vision toward the fork. Proxima stepped to block. Logan hit her, shoulder to shoulder. She slid and set her feet with a hiss. She tried a sweep. He jumped it. They traded 2 quick blows. She stabbed for his throat. He swayed, jaw clenched, eyes bright. He smelled her intent before her body moved. He smiled again, then wiped it away and got out of her way as Diana came through with another hard check that knocked Proxima sideways into a door frame. Corvus ran the glaive along the floor and then whipped it up at Vision's hip. The blade found a seam in Vision's stance. Wanda screamed wordlessly and snapped the blade away with both hands. The cut traced a shallow groove across Vision's side. He staggered and then steadied. His voice did not shake. I am fine. Keep moving, Steve said. He pressed a hand to Vision's shoulder for 1 second and then took it away. He did not show fear. Clint planted an arrow with a fine thread in the ceiling and used it to slide past Proxima with a sudden burst. He landed close and fired a point-blank stun into her shoulder. She snarled. Natasha kicked her knee. It bent and recovered. Proxima made a hard, short sound and forced them back with a cut that hit Diana's shield again and sparked. I opened the double doors ahead by 1 inch. There. Steve pushed through with Vision. Logan backed in after them. Diana followed. Natasha rolled. Clint retreated last and fired a blocking shot at Corvus's face that forced him to blink. The doors closed. I locked them. Vault vestibule, Batman said. 30 meters. Cameras off. Only our eyes. Jean breathed out. They are repositioning to try the outer walls. Magneto, ready. I am ready, Magneto said. He lifted an entire wall's worth of nails and screws again and compacted them into a neat cylinder, then set it down gently. You will not have their tricks. Vision, Steve said, how's the stone? Calm, Vision said. A thin crack of light moved across his side where Corvus had grazed him. He put a hand over it and kept walking. Wanda, Natasha said quietly, you pulled that blade out. I saw the line, Wanda said. I knew where to grab it. Good, Natasha said. We were at the vault's face. It was not a bank door. It was a protective lock tied to the joint accord, with my seal, Tony's hardware, Batman's security, and Fate's binding instructions layered into it. It was built to resist clever hands and brute force and telekinesis and low-level reality shifts up to our agreed threshold. Open, Steve said. Stand by, I said. Custody check, Vision remains bearer. Custodians present to witness, Rogers for Avengers, Diana for League. Witnesses, Natasha Romanoff, Clint Barton, Logan, Wanda Maximoff. External oversight, Batman Remote, Stark Remote, Cyborg Remote. Recording begins. All lights along the door struck green in sequence. The inner mechanism turned. Air moved with a correct, dim pressure. The vestibule light was low and even. The vault chamber door opened only 2 feet, by design. Enter, I said. Only Vision and Steve first. Diana, hold the door. Natasha, Clint, Logan, Wanda, hold positions. They complied. Vision stepped inside with Steve close. The chamber was plain and quiet, with the central stand marked for Vision's foot placement during emergency stabilization only. We were not transferring. We were moving the bearer into a secure space with power shielding, damped walls, and multiple kill switches that did not touch the stone. Close, I said. Diana drew the door in with careful pressure and set it against the frame without letting it lock fully. She watched the corridor over her shield. Corvus and Proxima hit the locked double doors like a single living hinge. The panels flexed and held. Corvus stabbed the seam. Proxima drove the spear into the handlebar. The doors rang. Wanda drew a line with her hands and held the sound down so it would not travel through the walls to the outer halls. Logan braced his hands on the bar. His arms were steady. Move Vision to position Alpha, Batman said. Face north wall. Done, Steve said. He placed his hand on Vision's shoulder and met his eyes. We're here. Vision nodded once. I will not fail. Seal vestibule door, I said. 3 seconds. Now. Diana pulled her arm in. The heavy door shut with a clean final sound. Corvus and Proxima hit the outer pair again with a crash. The vestibule lights shifted to blue. The vault stabilized to its deeper setting. Vision stood still. The Mind Stone remained the same quiet weight it had been in the corridor. The output did not spike. Status, Tony said. Stable, Banner said. I'm reading normal feedback. No leaks. Clint exhaled. Good. Natasha watched the seam and tapped the door with 2 fingers at a regular beat. They're not giving up. Alert, Jean said. Corvus is calling Ebony Maw. He wants him to come cut the locks. Denied, I said. Lantern, Strange, maintain your hold. Do not permit Ma to leave the sanctum block. He has not tried, Strange said. He tests, then steps back. Corvus, Batman said dryly over our line, is not going to enjoy waiting. Proxima drove the spear through the seam and tried to pry. The metal did not give. She stepped back and breathed hard. Logan's smile sharpened. He stopped smiling when Diana looked at him. He pressed his mouth into a flat line and nodded. He stayed ready. Stand by, I said. Steve, Vision, you will remain in the vault for 30 minutes. Then we'll rotate the screen. If they attempt to breach again, we shift to fallback route Charlie. No stone transfer. Same custody. Understood, Steve said. I understand, Vision said. Magneto, I said, you may go to the outer hall to be seen and discourage further attempts. Do not engage. Maintain cap. No ferrous objects inside our corridor. I will stand where they can see me, Magneto said. He walked to a window in the adjacent hall, turned his head slightly, and waited. Proxima's eyes flicked toward him. Corvus did not turn. He stabbed the door seam again. It did not change. Jean's voice was quiet. They are deciding whether to withdraw again to regroup. Let them, Batman said. Let them, Steve repeated. We held our breath for 20 seconds. Corvus struck once more, then stopped. Proxima pulled her spear from the bar and cleaned it with 2 sharp strokes. She looked at the door as if to commit it to memory. She looked at Magneto with flat dislike. She turned and left. Corvus waited 2 beats, then followed. Do not pursue, I said. No one moved. Wanda, Steve said, stay with the vestibule. Anyone else, rotate to perimeter. Natasha, Clint, Logan rest 1 minute, then return to stations. Copy, Natasha said. Copy, Clint said. Fine, Logan said. He rolled his neck. 1 minute. I checked the sanctum. Strange drank water and wiped his face with the back of his hand. Wong checked the lower seals and adjusted 1 anchor. Stewart kept the cone steady. Superman hovered overhead and watched the sky. Thor floated with him and listened. Thanos has moved to a new vector, I said. He is not descending. He is sending a scout to test external perimeter 3. Lantern Corps has it, Stewart said. Good, I said. I returned to the tower's vault interface. Vision stood still. His posture did not change. Steve stood beside him, breathing like a man who had done this before. He kept 1 hand clenched and then relaxed it. Vision, Steve said quietly, you did well. Thank you, Vision said. His voice had a thin thread of relief that he kept short. Wanda pulled the blade in time. I saw it, Steve said. She always has good hands. Always, Vision said. Diana stood at the inner door, head tilted, listening to small sounds along the frame. Natasha leaned on the wall and breathed out once, then rolled each shoulder. Clint ran a finger down his bow and checked the hinge. Logan stood under a vent and listened to the building like an animal listens to trees. Magneto remained in the outer hall, hands folded, eyes on nothing. He did not smile or glower. He stood like a guard because that is what he was at that moment. Jean breathed slowly, eyes half closed. They are withdrawing to the street. No one on the civilian floors is in danger. Good, Steve said. Status to the council, I said. Mind Stone in inner vault with bearer and lead. No transfer. Screen in place. Adversaries repelled. Sanctum stable. Thanos in high orbit. Second wave probable. Batman's tone was neutral. We hold posture. Hold posture, I said. 30-minute mark begins now. I adjusted the tower's outer sensors to focus on acoustic range rather than motion so we could hear new entries before we saw them. I locked 2 more maintenance shafts that had been marked but not yet sealed. I added them to Stark's building log and sent a repair request tagged high. Tony read it and sent 2 engineers with clearance and a quiet order. They did not approach the fighting corridors. Wanda set her back to the door and slid down to a crouch with her hands on her knees. She was not shaking. She was focused and tired. Diana looked at her and gave a small nod. Wanda nodded back. Natasha handed her a small bottle of water. Wanda drank and handed it back. Thanks. De nada, Natasha said. Clint stood, bow in hand, and looked toward the door with a straight face. You know he hates this. Corvus? Natasha asked. Yeah, Clint said. He likes to be the guy who cuts locks and makes himself important. Not today, Logan said, and he sounded satisfied. Not today, Clint agreed. I listened to the vault seal, the stone's pulse, the people's breathing, the city's hum. Everything stayed clean. Time passed in counted breaths. At the later mark, I spoke again. Rotate. Wanda, you rest with Natasha. Clint and Logan hold vestibule with Diana. Steve, you stay with Vision. Magneto remains on the outer hall until relief. Jean, keep civilians calm. Batman, you are authorized to set micro-traps on outer doors. Low force only. Setting, Batman said. He sent a pattern to the door seams that would sting and mark but not injure. Corvus would hate it. That was the point. Sanctum, I said, report. Quiet, Strange said. Wards are firm. Thanos? Thor asked. Waiting, I said. He wanted the quick strike. He did not get it. Then we have time, Steve said. Yes, I said. We use it. I opened the shift board and pushed the next wave of assignments. The tower's inner lines stayed tight. The sanctum circle remained closed. The sky over the city held. We would carry through the next move when it came. Chapter 17, The Dummy Corridor. I watched the vault readouts until they settled into a flat line. The Mind Stone's output stayed low and steady. Vision stood in the alpha position, Steve remained beside him. The sanctum block held. The city was quiet in the tense way that follows repelled attacks. This was the window. We will run a decoy, I said. We pull Corvus and Proxima away from the tower. We do not move the Mind Stone. We will show them a false signature, feed them sealed corridors, and use the building against them. Custody remains with Vision. The real corridor remains closed. Batman's reply was immediate. I'll write the route. 2 forks, 6 doors, 3 false lifts, 1 loop. Tony's voice came from the tower systems channel. I'll paint a dummy signature through the ventilation and wall wiring. Banner will match the pulse so it looks right on their scanners. Low amplitude, right frequency. Banner checked the graphs. I can mimic the Mind Stone's hum within the tower. No leakage into the vault. Cyborg added, I'll stagger the cameras to show a shadow moving down the hall. No face, just the right glow. I'll lock their signal readers into the false feed. Jean's tone was calm and focused. I will keep civilians clear on the dummy route. I will not touch the enemy mines. Wanda, I said, stay on the vestibule for the real vault. You will not move. I'll hold, she said quietly. There was relief in her voice that she did not have to run again. She set her back against the door, breathed out through her nose, and tightened her grip. Clint, Natasha, Logan, Steve said through the local channel, you shift to decoy escort. You will not fight to win. You will show enough pressure to sell the chase and then fall back through doors. Do not get cut off. Understood, Natasha said. Got it, Clint said with steady humor that didn't push the moment. I can run and snipe. Fine by me, Logan said. He flexed his hands without popping claws. He chose to show speed and noise over killing blows. Diana, I said, you will hold the vestibule with Wanda and Steve. If either of the pair breaks off the chase, you will be ready. I will hold, Wonder Woman said. She set her shield margin against the frame and adjusted her stance for close quarters. Magneto, I said, maintain the outer hall prevention and hold the exterior lines. Keep ferrous mass inert. If drones approach, you will compact them and set them down. No shards. Understood, Magneto said. His voice held steady pressure. He did not push past it. Lantern, I said over the sanctum line, hold the cone. Strange, keep the time stone in the inner circle. Thor and Superman, you stay on high intercept. If Thanos shifts vector, you will meet him together. No solo engagement. Understood, Strange said. Confirmed, Superman said. Yes, Thor said. I took control of the tower's east service wing. I sealed 3 doors. I unlocked 2 that never unlocked for the public. I switched off the decorative lights and left the guide strips lit. I set the dummy poles to start at the wrong end of the wing and moved toward a false lift. I adjusted the lift to open and close on cue without moving. Start the pulse, I said. Tony sent it. The hum moved under the paint and through the girders like a slow heartbeat. It was soft but distinct. Banner matched the bass line and smoothed the static. Jean reported, Corvus and Proxima have heard it. They just changed their path. Good, Batman said. They'll take the south stair to the east wing in 40 seconds. Position the decoy team for visual contact without giving them a shot. Clint, Steve said, you'll be the first face. Natasha and Logan behind you. Show the silhouette and vanish. On the stair landing, Clint said. I'll make them climb. Clint took the stair landing and stood where they would see him at the top. He set an arrow with a bright tip and held it at his side like a flare. He didn't wave it. He stood still. The hum rattled the metal a little. Corvus hit the top step, eyes on the glow, breath steady, frustration tucked away. Proxima came up behind him without a sound. She looked at Clint and then at the light in the door seam. Clint turned and ran. Corvus chased him. Proxima leaned into the run with him. Natasha stepped into view behind Clint just long enough to be seen and then took the first door. Logan glanced back once with a tight grin and ran the third slot, enough noise to sell the fear without the fear being real. They were athletes at this distance. They controlled their breath. I took the first door and closed it on Corvus's blade. The point scraped wood and hit the strike plate. Sparks. The hum drifted left. They bought it, Jean said. Go to fork 1, Batman said. Left will dead end after the third door and show light under the fourth. They will hit the fourth and meet a barrier and nothing else. The right will blow their balances with 2 narrow jumps and then open again. Do not fall. Copy, Natasha said, unruffled. Clint took the left and put an arrow into the frame of the fourth door, a marker for Corvus to see. He threw a second arrow behind him, a simple line across the floor to make Proxima step over it with a tiny delay. Logan hit the pads on the narrow jumps with sure feet and did not slip. He did not show off. He kept the movement simple and fast. Corvus hit the fourth door and stabbed hard. I let him stab into a dense interior that did not cut. He tried again. He made a sound that was nearly a growl. He backed up. He turned. Proxima ran the right path and lowered her center of gravity and did not lose speed at the jumps. She liked speed. She liked precision. Her lips parted in concentration. Natasha was 1 pace in front of her and did not look back. Camera feed shows the glow down the right, Cyborg said. They see it. Tony added a small fluctuation. I'm making it look like Vision is stressed. Banner shook his head. Keep it light. A big swing will make them suspicious. Agreed, I said. Keep it within the last fight's range. The corridor opened to the first false lift. The doors were closed. Clint hit the button and let the light change. He never touched the doors. He ran left into the maintenance catwalk. Natasha followed. Logan went last, hands low, breathing quick. Corvus and Proxima hit the lift and stabbed it. The doors dented. They forced them open. They saw the empty car. They jumped in. The car did not move. The hum moved to the left with the catwalk. "Clint, mark the catwalk," Batman said. Clint put a bright chalk line on the floor after he passed. Proxima hit the chalk, saw the bare floor, and adjusted in one step to keep her traction. Corvus's boots slid on the chalk. He recovered without falling. His face did not change. He was very angry. He was also very precise. He followed the sound and the lights. "Door 2 closes in 3 seconds, I said. Natasha slipped through. Logan slipped through. Clint slid and turned and shot an arrow into the top of the door frame that lodged the panel for half a second and then burned out. The door closed. Proxima slammed her shoulder into it and bounced off. Corvus drew his hand back and drove the glaive point into the joint. The joint held. He switched grip and tried to cut where hinges would be. The hinges were not there. "Next fork," Batman said. "You have a set of pipes with a low turn. I've tagged the low spots. Stay under. Corvus will overcommit and hit the pipe. Proxima will go lower. She will carry the spear as a balance bar. She will not like touching the ground with her hand." "Copy," Natasha said, a touch of dry humor in her voice. Clint ran low. He ducked the first pipe and moved to the second without touching the floor with his hands. Natasha matched him. Logan went lower than both, more like an animal than a man for one long beat. He didn't crawl. He moved on his feet with his back bent and rolled under the second pipe clean. Proxima hit the first pipe and used the spear to steady herself. It worked. Corvus hit the first pipe and tried to use the glaive in the same way. The blade bit the metal and stuck for a fraction of a second. He lost a step. He tore it free. He swore in a language that didn't matter to anyone in the hall. He ran again. "The hum moves right," Tony said. "Follow the hum." They followed. The smell of the building changed to that neutral, cleaned metal scent that comes with service floors. Light turned from warm to flat. Their steps were loud and then not. I played the hum against the lights and gave them a rhythm that drove them forward without letting them think. Jean spoke softly. "Their focus is narrow now. They will not try the walls for 30 seconds. Start the loop," Batman said. "Bring them back to where they started and let them think they've reached you." I brought the corridor around. The hum flickered under the floor and then came from the wall. I opened a door that they did not know was the same door from earlier. Clint slid through and left the chalk line on the floor. Natasha the same. Logan tapped the door as he passed with his fingers, a faint scrape that people like Corvus notice and remember. Corvus hit the door and stabbed. The door held. He stabbed again. The door gave. He burst into the same landing where they had started. He didn't realize it. He saw the glow in the stairwell and went after it. Proxima turned with him. They went down the stairs, then up again, then down, then into a hall that looked different because I had shifted the lighting from one corridor to another by one hue. They did not notice. They ran. "Distance from the vault," Batman said, increasing by 100 meters. "Keep it going," Steve said. "Vision, you okay?" "I am steady," Vision said from the Alpha position. He had not moved. He did not want to move. Steve stood with him and kept a hand inside his jacket, not on a weapon, on the COMM. His voice stayed even. "We have you." At the sanctum, Strange took the moment to rest his hands and drink. Wong adjusted the lower symbols. Stewart held the cone unblinking. Superman and Thor circled higher. "Thanos is holding," I said. "He is waiting for word from his vanguard. He will not get the word he wants." Back to the tower. Corvus and Proxima hit the second false lift. This one opened fast. They jumped in. The doors closed on them. I moved the car 2 floors and stopped it against an empty hall. The hum went into the wall to their left and then went silent for 2 seconds. They breathed hard. Proxima looked at Corvus. He stared at the door. The hum returned behind them. They spun. The doors opened the other way into another blank hall. They ran. Clint, Natasha, Logan exit into stairwell Delta. I will shut the door behind you. Take a short rest, I said. They broke through Delta, slammed it, and leaned for a second. Clint grinned without humor and blew out through his teeth. Natasha rolled her shoulders and shook her arms once. Logan chuckled low. He's mad. He is, Natasha said. She didn't gloat. She wiped sweat and tapped her COMM twice. Jean, Steve said, status on street level threat. None within a block. Police lines hold. Civilians are indoors. Good, Steve said. Magneto's voice came from the outer hall again. 2 small drones on the south face. Neutralized. He was not pleased. He was not angry. He was thorough. Corvus pressed forward and found a dead end with a door that looked like a vault. He stabbed it and got a shock from Batman's low-force trap. He jerked his hand back. The mark burned like a current. It would fade in a minute. He bared his teeth and looked at the door, then at the ceiling, then at the floor. He realized it was a loop. He said nothing. Proxima's chest rose and fell once in irritation. She pressed her tongue against her teeth and looked down the hall over her shoulder. Decision, Jean said. They will pull back to the outer corridor and try to find another entrance, Batman said. They are not near one. Corvus took 2 steps back and then 3 steps forward and stabbed the fake vault door one more time in anger. It did nothing. He snorted. He turned. Proxima turned with him. They walked, not ran, toward the stairs. Do not trail them, Steve said. Let them go. Let them go, I said. The hum went dark. The lights returned to their normal settings. The doors sealed. The tower breathed. Inside the vault vestibule, Wanda stood up from her crouch, rolled her shoulders, and looked at the inner door. Diana looked back and nodded once. Steve exhaled once, quietly, then controlled it. Vision looked at him. Steve smiled a little. Still here. Still here, Vision said. Tony shut down the dummy pulse. That worked. Banner sat back and rubbed his face. That worked. Cyborg locked the camera spoof. I'll switch back to normal monitoring. Batman's typing was quiet. I'll leave the micro-traps in place. Annoyance value is high. Risk is low. Clint laughed under his breath. Annoyance and a bruise. Good combo. Natasha checked her knife and slipped it away. I prefer that to stitches. Logan looked down the hall and sniffed. They're going to talk to the other 2. We will see them again. Yes, I said. We will. We will be ready. I checked the sanctum. Ebony Moss stood across the street with his hands behind his back again. Strange watched him from the doorway. Wong stood with his hand near the wheel of a lower ward. Stewart hovered 1 meter above the asphalt and watched both men with steady eyes. Thor and Superman floated against the light sky like 2 points that did not wobble. Your line holds, I said. Hold and wait, Strange said. I took stock. The Doomsday seal was stable. Fate had the ceiling. Zatanna sat at the seam and hummed under her breath. Wanda took her next shift in 20 minutes. The living tribunal did not interfere. The spectre did not approach. The presence and the one above all remained constant. The lanes were locked at the level we set. Thanos stayed in orbit. Rotation in 5, I said. Diana, Steve, keep positions. Wanda, drink water. Vision, do not move. Magneto, hold outer hall. Clint, Natasha, Logan, change corridor and set for another pass if needed. They acknowledged. Minutes passed. The city kept its low, tense sound. Sirens blipped. Radio chatter stayed controlled. Tony spoke again. One more improvement. We can build 2 more dummy pulses on different floors with heavier dampening later. Not today. Write it, Batman said. We will assign installation crews after this wave. Yes, I said. Later. Jean's voice was steady. Corvus and Proxima are leaving the building. Hold, Steve said. We watched them go. Proxima paused on the pavement and looked up at the glass. She looked in the direction of the floor where she had been. Her face did not show defeat. It showed clean anger. Corvus spoke to her without turning his head. She nodded once. They left the camera frame and became shapes on the street and then a blur when their ship pulled them. Sanctum, I said, status. Still, Strange said. Thanos? Steve asked. Looking and waiting, I said. He does not like the map. Good, Steve said. Thor's COMM clicked. I will intercept if he lowers. You will not be alone, Superman said. There was no contest. There was agreement. Wanda leaned her head back against the door and closed her eyes for 3 seconds. She opened them and stood. She flexed her fingers. Ready. Vision looked at her through the door. He did not need cameras to know she was there. He said nothing. He steadied himself. Steve rolled one shoulder and kept one eye on the readings. Diana kept her stance. I closed the dummy route and returned the building to normal. I left Batman's petty devices in the seams. I drew the map for the next trick and filed it. Tony filed it too. I monitored the stone, the vault, the city, the sanctum, the seal, the sky. We would carry forward until the next strike. Chapter 18, The Sanctum Kill Zone. The tower returned to steady rhythm. The vault readouts held flat. Vision stood with Steve in the alpha position. Wanda and Diana held the vestibule. Magneto watched the outer hall. The sanctum remained quiet under Strange's hand. Thanos waited above the atmosphere and watched. We will tighten the sanctum kill zone, I said. He will come for the time stone. We will deny him a path. Strange, move the circle to the inner ring. Stewart, compress the cone around Bleecker. Wong, lock lower anchors. Thor and Superman, you will intercept as a pair. No separation. No solo strikes. Strange answered without hesitation. Understood. He stepped back into the sanctum and rotated the eyes ward 1 level deeper. The amulet rested against his chest. His hands formed a steady pattern that settled into the inner ring. The eye did not open. The ward held. Wong pressed his palm to the floor and set 2 anchors, one east and one west. He looked up and met Strange's eye. Lower locks are firm. John Stewart dropped to one knee, set a hand to the street, and expanded his construct. The cone over the block tightened. He added a second skin to the cone and set it at a slightly different frequency to stop harmonic tricks. Cone 1 and Cone 2 are solid, he said. I will flex them in alternation if I have to. Superman floated at 30 meters and watched the sky. Thor hovered 3 meters away and adjusted his grip on Mjolnir. They kept a line between them without speaking. I cut 2 streets to local traffic only. I rerouted emergency vehicles around the block and set a clear path for medics. I locked adjacent rooms in the sanctum that did not need to be open. I closed a door that sometimes stuck in damp weather and made sure it would not stick now. Cyborg, Batman said over the grid channel, move the broadcast cameras to fixed heights. No drags. I don't want wild feeds to give him timing. Done, Cyborg said. I'll keep them slow. Tony, I said, lower the corporate tower's draw by 1%. Keep the sanctum grid stable. Adjusted, Tony said. Banner, I'm watching the DIPs. Everything is smooth, Banner said. Jean, I said, observe the street. Do not touch mines. Call panic clusters. I will, Jean said. Wanda, I said, hold your place at the vault. Do not move until called. I will hold, she said. The pressure shifted. Thanos moved. His ship altered its angle and rolled to bring the lower hatch into line with the sanctum block. He did not descend at once. He looked and measured. He sent a very small scout craft ahead. Stewart's cone lit where it touched the edge and shed it like rain. The scout swung away and retreated into the larger hull. Thor did not smile. He rolled his shoulders once and looked at Superman. Together. Superman kept his eyes on the hull. Together. Positions, I said. Strange, Wong, keep the door closed. Stewart, hold the cones. Thor and Superman, do not rise. Wait for the hatch. They did not move early. The carrier set 3 points of light along its belly. The hatch opened. Figures formed at the edge of the gravity well, outriders by the dozen and a single larger weight at the center. He did not step through. He sent the outriders first. They fell in a spread that would have swarmed an unprepared street. Cone down, Stewart said. He moved the inner construct like a brush. The fall lines hit the cone and slid down in a controlled stream that set the outriders on the asphalt inside the kill zone with no splatter and no scatter. It looked like assistance. It was containment. They turned to launch outward. The cone stopped them. They scrabbled along it with claws and teeth and found no purchase. Wong stepped forward a half step and flicked his wrist. A line of fire ran across their path at knee height. It was low and steady. It cut their stride. Strange raised a palm higher and drew a tight circle in the air. The first outrider ran into it and turned into dust that fell within the line and did not spread. He did not spam the circle. He placed it and waited for the next. Sound dampener, Batman said. Wanda, do not leave, but give them the dampener from the vestibule. Wanda lifted one hand, turned it, and pressed her palm toward the sanctum block without stepping through her door. The air around the circle absorbed the worst sounds. The city did not hear teeth. Thanos, Thor said under his breath. Superman tilted his head. Now. The figure dropped from the hatch. He fell at a pace like a fixed elevator. He carried the gauntlet on his left hand with 2 empty sockets. He touched down 15 meters from the sanctum door and stood still. He did not shout. He did not swagger. He looked at the door and the cone and the men and the sky. He set his feet and raised his left hand to test the construct with a tap. The cone did not flex. John, I said, do not answer with a show. Hold. I hold, Stewart said. Thanos turned his head. He looked up at the 2 shapes in the air. He lifted his right hand without the gauntlet and curled his fingers as if to beckon. Thor did not move. Superman did not move. Together, I said. They dropped at once, not to hit but to set the line. Thor hit the air at 10 meters. Superman hit the air at 11. They did not land. They became a wall at 2 heights and set the box of the kill zone in a rectangle. Thanos looked from one to the other and then back at the door. You want the door, Strange said from the threshold. It will not open. Thanos spoke without raising his voice. You cannot defend it forever. Wang answered with plain truth. We can defend it today. Thanos did not move for 3 breaths. Outriders clawed at the cone and fell back. Strange burned a line and dusted another with a turn. Wang bound 2 with a rope of light and set them aside. Stuart kept the cone flat and even. He watched Thanos's hands and not his face. Thor, Superman, I said, he will test your patience. He will try to push you into rash action. You will not give him the distance he wants. I won't, Superman said. His voice was calm. I will not, Thor said. His face was set. Thanos took a step toward Thor. Superman took a step to match. The distance did not change. Thanos pivoted and took one toward Superman. Thor matched it. The distance did not change. He stopped and looked at the cones again. He looked at Strange's circles. He looked at Wang's lines. He lowered his chin and studied the street. He looked at the upper windows of the sanctum and then at the fire escapes across the block. He looked for a way to use ordinary objects against extraordinary men. Stuart hardened the cone 2 degrees at the point Thanos watched. Thanos stopped watching it. Team at the tower, I said, hold your postures. Do not step away from the vault. If Corvus and Proxima return, you will stay in the inner configuration and repeat last action set. Understood, Steve said. Sanctum perimeter remains clear, Jean reported. Good, I said. Thanos raised his hand with the gauntlet and searched again for a grip with the blank stones. He made a fist. The cone did not change. He lifted his right hand and set his palm toward the eye's position on Strange's chest. Strange felt the test at a distance. He tightened the lock and pressed it into the skin behind his shirt. The lock did not shift. Wang drew his rope again and pulled 3 outriders into a neat pile that Stuart flipped into a containment ditch that I opened as a shallow square in the street and closed again. Thank you, Wang said. Stuart nodded and did not look away from Thanos. Batman's voice came over the league line, neutral and precise. Thanos is waiting for a flare and a lost temper. He will try to cut one man from the pair. Thor, do not chase. Superman, do not chase. Understood, they both said. Thanos moved his jaw and breathed through his nose. He did not seem winded. He was not winded. He was patient and strong. He looked up at his ship and gave a small motion with 2 fingers. The hatch closed. The ship pulled back 10 meters and stopped. Stark, Steve said, ready the air net if he throws anything. Already up, Tony said. I am not near the sanctum. I'm on the flank. Stay on the flank, I said. Do not enter the kill zone unless called. Tony's breath clicked once in his mask. Copy. Thanos moved. He stepped to the edge of the cone, put his left foot across the line, and pressed it into the construct to test the flexibility. Stuart did not let it flex. Thanos withdrew his foot. He shifted to the other side. The cone held there as well. He looked up again at Thor and Superman. He picked his target in that slow, careful way he used when he knew his enemy would not dance for him. He chose Thor. He lifted his right hand and opened it to defend against the hammer. He took a step left to make Thor compensate. Superman moved the same way. The line did not bend. Thanos's head turned a fraction toward Superman. It was not a tell for a strike. It was a tell for knowledge. He had learned the rhythm. Change speed, I said. Do not give him a beat. Thor lowered his chest by a breath. Superman raised his chin by a breath. The pair offset their timing by 2 ticks. Thanos moved again and lost a half-second in his calculation. It was enough to keep him from seeing a door in the timing. Outriders kept striking the cone and falling. Strange dusted one more and then stopped killing. He began to move them with small circles into the ditch for later removal. Wang drew edges under their feet and made them stumble. Stewart kept the noise down. Cyclops set hazard marks 2 blocks out so responders would honor the line. Aurora kept the air pressure neutral. Aquaman kept the mains closed and quiet. Hela stood on a street light and watched. No gates, she said. 2 near events now resolved by medics. She looked at me and waited. I nodded. She said nothing more. Thanos took another step toward Thor. Thor stepped down to the street and stood on the cone's edge. Superman dropped to the same height and put the cone at his back. Thor raised Mjolnir. He did not cock it. He held it. We will not move, he said softly to himself. Thanos swung first. He did not use the gauntlet to make a wave. He used his right hand to punch Thor in the face. Thor took it on the mouth and cheek. Blood turned his lip red. He smiled in a way that was not for fun and then shut the smile. He hit Thanos with the hammer in a short, flat strike to the shoulder. The sound was dull and heavy. Superman hit from the other side, not at the head or chest, but at the hip. Thanos stepped back 1 pace. Keep it steady, Batman said. No long throws. No rises. Keep him on the ground. Thor nodded once. On the ground. Superman nodded. On the ground. Thanos did not step back again. He planted both feet and threw at Superman's jaw. Superman took the blow and blinked once. His lip split. He licked the blood away and hit Thanos in the stomach. Thanos grunted. Thor hit the knee with a low tap that made the joint flex. Thanos adjusted his weight. He tried to catch Thor's wrist. Thor pulled it away in time. The motion upset Thanos's balance by a small degree. Superman pushed into the opening with his shoulder. Thanos slid a foot. The cone did not move. The line did not break. Strange, I said, keep distance. He will throw nothing in his hands. He will throw you with your own movement if you let him. Strange smiled very slightly in acknowledgement. I know. He did not move closer. Wong turned 2 Outriders into smoke with a twist, more out of safety than a desire to count kills. Street clear in 5 minutes, he said. Thor and Superman exchanged a quick look. Thor's eye was swollen. Superman's cheekbone was red. They breathed hard but their breath was steady. Thanos stepped toward Thor again. Thor set his feet. Superman stepped to Thanos's other side. Thanos threw a feint at Superman and then spun toward Thor. Thor did not move. He took the shoulder. He rolled the shoulder out and hit Thanos in the ribs with the head of the hammer. The blow was short and inside. It did not look like a sport. It looked like a man in a close fight doing the hard simple thing. Good, Batman said in a tone that meant keep it. Stewart spoke quietly. Cone at 80%. I can hold this for 1 hour. You will not need to, I said. Thanos breathed a little harder. He did not show strain. He pressed forward. He pushed into Superman's forearms and tried to drag him over the cone. Superman planted his feet on the street. I took the cone 2 centimeters lower so Superman's heels dug into ground, not light. Thanos lost leverage. Thor hit the elbow of the right arm. The arm buckled. Superman pushed the left shoulder. Thanos took a half step back. He looked at me and knew who had lowered the cone. He did not speak to me. He tried again without changing his face. Tower, Steve said, report. Quiet, Wanda said. They have not returned. Vision. Steve asked. Steady, Vision said. Good, Steve said. He did not relax his voice. He kept it even. Jean said, crowd is staying indoors. Police lines are good. No panic near the sanctum. Thank you, Strange said. Wang adjusted the last lower anchor. Done. Outrider count, Stewart said. 4, Wang said. Strange dusted 2 with quick circles. Wang bound 1 and slipped it into the ditch. Stewart pressed the cone as a lid for 1 long breath while Wang closed the square and set the outrider inside it. He lifted the cone and resumed normal. No one outside the ring saw the ditch or the box. There was only a clean street and a quiet dome. The last outrider charged Superman's back. Thor hit it with the hammer without turning his head. It fell and did not rise. Thanos watched the outrider fall. He watched the dome. He watched the door. He watched Thor's face. He watched Superman's breathing. He watched Strange's hands. He watched Stewart's ring. He saw no weak seam. He raised his gauntlet and tried to force a door through weight. Strange pressed the lock into his skin and down his spine and into the floor. The eye did not open. The ring did not click. The gauntlet did not bite. Thanos ceased trying to force the door and resumed fighting. He targeted Superman's eyes with his right thumb. Superman moved his head and took a scrape to the brow. His vision blurred for 1 breath. Thanos pressed it. Thor hit his hand hard with the hammer and made him pull the hand back. Superman cleared his vision and hit Thanos in the neck with a straight hand. The sound was sharp and short. Thanos grunted and took 2 steps back. He came in again at the same speed. Rotate now, I said. Thor took a half step left to bring Thanos across his body. Superman took a half step right to keep the pair from crossing legs. Thanos cut the corner and tried to move between them. Thor put a knee into his thigh and shut the lane. Superman put his shoulder into the chest and kept the other lane closed. Thanos stopped trying to move between them and turned to face both again. He looked up at the ship once more. He made another small motion with 2 fingers. The hatch closed completely. The ship pulled higher. He expected more, Strange said. He expected a pull, I said. He will not get it. Thanos shifted his jaw and rolled his shoulders. He tried lunging at Thor. Thor did not take the bait. He hit Thanos in the arm and took a short uppercut to the jaw for his caution. He did not fall. He spit blood into the street and reset his feet. Superman struck the ribs again. The fight became a series of short, hard strikes without flourish. Time check, Batman said. 7 minutes, Stewart said. Hold, Batman said. Thanos's eyes tightened. He reached for Thor's hammer again as if stealing it by audacity and force might work. Thor pulled it back and kept it. He did not throw it. He kept it close. He used it like a tool, not a symbol. I kept the cone tight and the street even. I kept the door closed and the lower locks set. I watched the ship and the upper air. I watched the tower and the vault. I watched Doomsday's seal and the pocket. I watched Hela's hand. I watched Jean's breath. I looked through every gap and closed the ones that did not need to exist. Superman's cheek bled. Thor's lip bled. Thanos bled from the mouth and the nose. He did not stop. They did not stop. Rotate in 2, I said. Strange, if he tries to sample the time stone's energy through the wall again, press the lock into the floor and keep him guessing. I will, Strange said. Wang flexed his fingers. I will hold the lower ring. Stewart watched the gauntlet and the fist and the foot and the eyes. I will shift the cone on any leg feint. Do not shift it on a head feint, Batman said. I won't, Stewart said. Thanos threw a head feint at Superman and hit Thor low. Stewart did not move the cone. Thor took it and gave it back with a low blow to the hip. Superman drove him straight back with a chest push. Thanos's heel hit the cone. He moved left. Thor moved left faster. Thanos looked for a second at the ship with true frustration. He looked at the city with what might have been appreciation. He looked at the cone and the door and the pair and made a choice. He stepped back one step, then two. He lowered his head, then raised it. He gave a small motion with his left hand. The ship opened its hatch again. He jumped. He did not look back. He did not shout. "Do not chase," I said. Thor stood in place. He did not move. Superman stood beside him and breathed. Stuart kept the cone steady. Strange did not relax his hands. Wong watched the lower locks. The ship rose. It turned. It did not leave Earth. It moved to a higher lane to watch. "Status," Steve said. "Time stone secure," Strange said. "Mind stone secure," Vision said. "Grid stable," Tony said. "Cone stable," Stuart said. Thor wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and spat blood again. "Fine," he said. He flexed his jaw. Superman touched his brow and looked at the blood on his fingers. He wiped it off on the back of his hand and nodded. "Fine." Wong set both hands on his knees for one breath and then stood straight. "I will reset the circles." "Reset them," Strange said. "I checked the lower anchors, the eye lock, the cones, and the street. I logged the strikes and the effort and the injuries. I set the next rotation and the watch. He would come again. We would hold again. Chapter 19, Second Intercept. I kept the sanctum block tight. The cones held their shape. The lower anchors were firm. The door was shut. The ship hung in the higher lane like a dark weight. Thor rolled his shoulder once and flexed his hand around the hammer. Superman touched the cut on his brow with 2 fingers and wiped them clean on the back of his glove. Strange read the eyes lock by touch and kept it pressed into the inner ring. Wong walked the line inside the door and checked each anchor in order. "Rotation begins," I said. "No changes to the circle. No lifts. No long throws. Short, inside strikes only. He will test new angles. He will try to separate you. He will not." "Understood," Superman said. "Understood," Thor said. "Lantern, report cone strength," Batman said. "Cone at 78%, John Stewart said. "Second skin at 82. I can flex without losing integrity." "Do not flex unless I call it," I said. "Hold a flat surface." "I will hold a flat surface," Stewart said. I sent the city an update through Cyborg's control. Civil band advisories stayed calm. Streets were closed around the block. Police lines were steady. Medical teams were staged 2 blocks south and did not advance without request. "Tower status," I said. "Vault stable," Steve said. "Vision's output is low. Wanda and Diana hold the vestibule. Magneto is in the outer hall." "Good," I said. "Keep positions. Corvus and Proxima are repositioning 2 blocks down. They have not entered." "I see them," Batman said. "I will alert if they move." Thanos's ship drifted in a slow arc and then stopped above the sanctum again. The hatch lowered to half. He dropped alone into the block and landed with the same steady impact as before. He did not breathe hard. He did not shout. He stepped forward and watched the cones and the door as if he had not looked before. "Do not move," I said. Superman and Thor remained at street height. Stuart raised the cone by 1 centimeter to let their heels bite the pavement. Strange placed a circle at knee height at the left edge and left it dormant. Wong drew a low line near the curb where the cone met the ground. Thanos walked along the inside of the cones with his left hand brushing the light without force. He watched the way it responded. Stuart did not let it ripple. It looked like glass, but it was not glass. It was a stable construct with no harmonics to grab. Wang, Strange said quietly, keep the lower anchors at the ready. They are set, Wang said. He adjusted one by a finger's width and nodded. Thanos stopped 5 meters from Thor and looked from Thor's face to the hammer to the cone and then to Superman's stance. He moved 2 steps toward Superman and then 2 toward Thor. He was testing for reach and reaction. He did not see one. Do not open, I said to Strange. I will not, Strange said. Thanos struck first. He drove a straight right at Superman's face. Superman lifted his forearm and took it on the bone, then answered with a short jab to the sternum. Thanos grunted. Thor hit the upper arm with the hammer head in a compact arc and stepped back a step. Thanos pivoted and threw at Thor's jaw. Thor dropped his chin and let the glove hit the crown of the helmet. The sound was ugly. Thor did not fall. He stepped in close and bumped Thanos with his shoulder. Superman moved at the same time and struck low on the hip. Thanos braced on the foot closest to the cone. Stuart kept the cone flat and did not give him a spring. Rotate by half, Batman said. No crossing of feet. Keep the lines straight. Thor and Superman obeyed at once. They shifted by a step and kept the distances tight. Thanos tried to break the pair by lunging at Superman and turning into Thor. Thor halted and planted. Superman took one step back, then forward. The line held. Outriders tried to pour through a manhole they had cut 2 blocks away. Aurora tightened pressure under the street and locked the cover in place. Aquaman pushed water pressure into the side street and held the pipes as braces. They did not break. They did not rattle. Street integrity is fine, Aquaman said. Thank you, I said. Cameras are fixed at the agreed heights, Cyborg said. No panning down to faces. Keep it that way, Batman said. Thanos tried a different line. He flicked the empty sockets of the gauntlet toward Strange and moved his left hand as if to invite the eye to open. Strange breathed out and pressed the lock down along his spine. Thanos's attempt died before it reached the surface. He grunted once and looked at Strange with real interest for 2 beats. Strange did not smile. He kept his hands ready. Lantern, how's your draw? Tony asked. 64% on the main, Stuart said. Second skin at 80. I can hold for another hour. You will not need to, I said. Hela raised a hand by the curb. No gates, she said. Thanos returned to the pair and pushed the fight again. This time he tried to circle Superman like a wrestler and drag him into the center. Superman took a wide stance, locked his hips, and stayed square. Thor hooked Thanos's wrist with the head of the hammer and twisted. The gauntlet arm lost a degree of control. Superman pushed at the chest with the palm of his hand, not to knock him away but to break his posture. Thanos reset and struck Thor over the head again. Thor took it and gave him a sharp blow to the ribs. The noise was short. Thanos breathed harder. Do not match his breathing, Batman said. It will invite his timing. Thor kept his breath even. Superman kept his even. Thanos tried to count. He came up a half beat short each time. Frustration showed in the tightening of his eyes and the way he flexed his left hand. Wang, I said, outrider under the cone near your foot. Wang looked down and saw claws pushing under the edge where Stuart had brought the cone low. He stepped on the hand with a precise downward motion and cut off the fingers with a small blade. The creature withdrew. He did not waste time on it. He went back to the lower lock. Thank you, Stuart said. Thanos feinted at Thor's left and launched at Superman's right. Superman dropped his shoulder and took it with his bicep. His jaw tightened. He answered with a body shot to the floating ribs. Thor struck the thigh. There was no flashy move. It was all puzzle pieces in weight and position. Bring him left 2 steps, Batman said. Away from the storm drain. Thor and Superman pressed him left by inches. It was not visible to a distracted eye. It was visible to me and to Thanos. He did not resist the push because he wanted to feed their confidence. He tried to spin out of it and lost purchase on the cone edge. Stewart had kept it dry and clean. There was nothing to pull. Thanos swore under his breath. Thor hit his tricep and Superman hit the jaw. He stepped back 1 pace. Strange, I said. Do you require relief? Not yet, Strange said. Wong, drink water. I have water, Wong said. He took a quick drink without taking eyes from the line. Tower, I said. Status. Quiet, Steve said. Wanda is steady. Vision is steady. Diana is steady. Magneto is steady. Corvus and Proxima are holding in an alley 1 block south, Jean said. They are waiting for a signal that will not come. Let them wait, Batman said. Thanos chose a new test. He lifted his right foot and stomped at the base of the cone to force a ring through the construct. Stewart had set a second skin precisely to prevent a ripple. The stomp hurt his own foot and did nothing to the cone. He did not show the pain. He moved again. Thor's lip split again. He licked blood from his mouth and spat it to the side. Superman wiped his cheekbone. They watched Thanos's shoulders and hips. They did not watch his hands. They watched the center. Change timing again, I said. Superman dropped his shoulders by 1 centimeter. Thor lifted his by 1 centimeter. The beat changed. Thanos adjusted. He was good at this. He tried again to pull Superman forward and then switched to Thor. It did not work. Lantern, Batman said, shave 1% from the top skin. Shaving, Stewart said. Thanos did not notice. Thor did not notice. Superman did not notice. Strange noticed. He looked at Stewart for a second and then back at Thanos. Wong kept his eyes on the floor and the lower anchors and saw nothing else. All marks green, Cyborg said. No grid spikes. Tony stayed on the flank. I'm ready if something flies. Hold, I said. Thanos made the first real mistake. He tried to trap Thor's forearm with a 2-hand grip and leave it there while he struck Superman with the gauntlet. Thor twisted his wrist down and out. He moved with both hands. He pushed at the thumb and bent the wrist. Thanos lost purchase for 1 second. Superman hit him in the ear with the heel of his palm. Thanos lost hearing on that side for 2 seconds. He shook his head once. Thor hit him in the same ear with the hammer. He stumbled. Do not chase, Batman said. They did not chase. They kept their feet planted and forced Thanos to return to strike range on his terms. He did. He tried to run straight in and slam them with his chest. Superman braced and took the charge. Thor hit the ribs again. Thanos did not stagger. He took it and pushed again. The cone did not move. The door did not open. Outriders are cleared, Wong said. He wiped his blade and sheathed it. Thank you, Strange said. Thanos made another motion with his left hand. The ship lowered. He did not jump this time. He stood and waited. The hatch opened. Ebony Maw stepped to the lip and raised his hands to work both the cones and the door at once. Stewart narrowed his eyes and compressed the 2 skins into one thicker piece with a lower frequency. Maw's fingers twitched as he read the less responsive surface. Strange pressed the eye down his spine. Wong placed both hands on the lower line. Maw pressed his hands down and tried to pull the cones up and the locks open. Nothing moved. Denied, I said. Ma frowned. He looked at Stuart and Strange with open disdain and then stepped back into the ship. The hatch closed. The ship rose. Thor huffed and set his feet again. Superman rolled his neck. Thanos looked up at the ship and then down again. He did not smile. He did not glare. He was a man losing patience without showing it. He tried another short punch. Thor blocked with his forearm and made a small sound of pain. Superman hit the chest. Thanos breathed loudly for 2 seconds and then steadied it. Time, Stuart said quietly. 11 minutes, Batman said. Hold. Hold, I said. Thanos lowered his arms for a second and turned his head to glance at the sanctum's upper windows again. Strange stepped 2 steps backward into the hall and the windows sealed. Thanos saw the seal. He marked it. He stepped forward to engage again. Tower, I said. Double-check the lower shaft that they used before. Weld it with the non-metal seam. Do it now. Doing it, Tony said. Done, Batman said a second later. Thank you, I said. Thanos tried again to push Superman out of the cone. Superman stood with his back to the light. Stuart dropped the cone by another 2 centimeters to let his boots sink into the asphalt. Thanos realized it after he pushed and did not get the slide. He threw a right hook. Superman blocked it. Thor hit the joint again. The fight remained close and simple. Rotate lungs, Batman said. Superman inhaled when Thor exhaled and reversed 2 beats later. It was a small trick. It kept their patterns from aligning. Thanos tried to time them by breath again. He failed by a fraction. A police siren came from 3 streets away and then cut. The officers held the line as trained. There were civilians in upper windows 2 blocks away watching. They did not lean too far. They did not scream. Jean monitored their minds for panic without touching them. They are holding, she said. No one is going to run. Good, I said. Thor's knee cut against Thanos's thigh. Thanos answered with an elbow to the back of Thor's head. Superman caught Thanos's wrist and twisted without wrenching. He wanted control, not pain. Thanos pulled back. Superman let him. Thor set his feet again. Thor, Wonder Woman said over the channel, voice steady, lower your left hand by 1 inch. He watches your shoulder for the hammer's swing. Thor lowered his hand by 1 inch. Thanos adjusted and missed the read on the next strike by half a beat. Thor hit his forearm. Superman struck the body. Thanos lost ground by 1 step. Thank you, Thor said. You are welcome, Diana said. Wong cleaned his blade again and stood still. Strange took a short, steady breath and adjusted the eye against his chest. Stuart did not blink. He did not rub his eyes. He did not look away. Thanos stepped back 2 paces and lifted his chin a tiny amount. He made a calculation and decided to leave. He did not look up this time. He jumped and grabbed the lip of the hatch. The ship pulled him in. The hatch closed. The ship pulled higher into the lane. Do not chase, I said. Thor let out a breath. Superman did too. Stuart maintained the cone. Strange held the lock. Wong held the lower line. Hela put her hand down. Status, Steve said. Sanctum secure, Strange said. Thor and Superman are standing. Copy, Steve said. Thor wiped blood from his mouth again. He looked at Superman and nodded once. Superman nodded back. Wong rolled his shoulders. We will reset the circles to the shallow depth for the next hour. Reset them, Strange said. He turned and began to walk the line inside the door, pressing each point down. Lantern, lower the cone by 5% and rest for 2 minutes with Stuart on auxiliary only, I said. Then resume primary. Understood, Stuart said. He made the cone slightly smaller without changing the edges. He kept it even while he rested. Tower report, Batman said. Vision's pulse is unchanged, Banner said. Vestibule status, I said. Normal, Wanda said. Diana has not moved. Good, I said. Magneto came on comms with a flat tone. 2 drones probing the north face again. Neutralized. They were not fast. Thank you, Steve said. Outrider remains, Wong said, looking into the ditch. I will deal with it later. Do it under shields, Strange said. I will, Wong said. Thanos, Thor said under his breath, not as a taunt, just a name in a log. He rolled his jaw and flexed a hand. I will stand for the next rotation. You will stand, I said. Superman, do you need relief? No, Superman said. I can hold. Good, I said. Next rotation will be 30 minutes. Then we will swap you for relief pairs. Next pair is Diana and Wonder Woman, I corrected myself, then adjusted with clarity, Diana and Captain Marvel if she arrives on time or Diana and Shazam if she does not. Thor will be replaced by Beta Ray Bill if Asgard consents, else by Green Lantern doubling with a shield heavy. We will not decide this now. For the next 30 minutes, you remain. Understood, Superman said. Understood, Thor said. Strange, I said, eat something small. Wong handed him a bar. Strange ate half, then handed the rest to Wong. Wong ate the other half. Lantern, Tony said, I can give you a small auxiliary feed from the tower grid if needed. Not yet, Stuart said. The city exhaled slowly. People behind the lines began to talk in low voices again. Some filmed from far windows against the advice. Cyborg filtered the worst feeds and kept the official ones steady and boring. Do not give them show angles, Batman said. I am not, Cyborg said. I looked at the ship's path. It moved along the edge of air and held. It did not descend. It did not climb. It waited for a mistake. Sanctum, I said, we will maintain. Thor and Superman remain on ground. Stuart holds cone. Strange and Wong hold the lock. Hela watches for gates. Cyclops keeps hazard marks. Aurora keeps air. Aquaman keeps mains. Jean watches the crowd. Tony monitors grid. Cyborg holds camera locks. Batman and Steve coordinate. I hold the field. That is all. They acknowledged in order. No one added anything unnecessary. No one complained. No one asked for permission to make a speech. Thanos did not return in the next 5 minutes. He did not return in the 5 after that. We used the time. Strange reset the circles and let his hands stop shaking in private. Wong drank more water. Stuart relaxed his shoulders and then tensed them again. Thor shook his hands out and tightened them on the hammer. Superman stretched his neck and took one deeper breath. Hela stepped to a new post and watched a single ambulance pull through the lower street with a calm driver. The ambulance obeyed the line and turned out of the block without delay. Rotation in 2 minutes, I said. I will hold, Superman said. I will hold, Thor said. Cyborg, Batman said, ready the next announcement. No times. Only status. Prepared, Cyborg said. Tony looked at the cluster of drones he had pulled from the eastern air. I will deliver this pile to a lab. Pass it to Hank, Steve said. Will do, Tony said. The hatch on the ship opened again. Thanos stood at the lip. He did not jump. He watched a full minute. He closed the hatch. The ship moved 5 degrees east and held. He is trying to find the weak corner, Batman said. He will not find it, I said. My voice did not rise. Agreed, Strange said. Agreed, Stewart said. Agreed, Superman said. Thor said nothing. He lifted his chin by a small amount and then set it back down. I kept the block under my hands. I pressed the corners down. I held the interface of rules that kept the eye closed. I logged the breathing of my people and the steps of the men at the street lines and the pause in the ship's engines that meant a course correction and not a strike. We stood and waited with the correct patience. He would come again. We would hold again. Chapter 20, 2 fronts fixed lines. The ship over Bleecker drifted. The cones held. The door stayed shut. The tower's vault readouts were flat. Vision stood at Alpha. Steve stood with him. Wanda and Diana held the vestibule. Magneto stood in the outer hall. Strange and Wong kept their marks steady. Stewart did not blink. Then the signature hit the field like a stamp. It was not a portal we had been using. It was not a gate from our circles. It was not Thanos's hatch. It was a straight-edged column with its own rules and a sound that was not sound. Boom tube, Batman said. Apocalyption, Cyborg confirmed. Coordinates, Lower East River Industrial Pier, Pier 36. Size, Major. Entities, Parademons mass plus a central mass. I did not turn my head. I set the sanctum and tower layers to hold without my eyes and then addressed the new line. Mark it, I said. New enemy, Darkseid. Superman inhaled once and let it out. Thor's grip tightened. Strange's fingers paused and then resumed. Wong's jaw set. Stewart's eyes narrowed. None of them moved. Do not break the sanctum line, I said. We hold here. Copy, Batman said. I will move to Pier 36 with ground team. Flash, evacuation. Aquaman, water control on site. Stewart. Negative, I said. Stewart remains. I will assign lantern relief. Core standby. The ring pulsed once. Stewart holds here. Jordan will be inbound. Until then, we use shields and rails. Understood, Batman said. His voice did not waver. Team for Pier, me, Aquaman, Flash. Zatanna for bindings. Jean for civilian comm. Aurora for wind. Scott for hazard marking. Logan for close. Natasha and Clint for perimeter. Tony on overwatch. Thor and Superman remain at Sanctum. Steve remains with Vision. Diana and Wanda hold the vestibule. Magneto seals metal at the pier. Move, I said. The watchtower bled blue through the clouds and sent a lift with a quiet floor. Batman stepped onto it without looking around. Aquaman took the edge and rolled his shoulders. Flash stood in the center and breathed once and waited. Zatanna checked her gloves, nodded to no one, and stood ready. Jean closed her eyes and opened them again. Aurora brought her hands to her sides and felt the lines. Scott adjusted his visor and glanced at Logan, who rolled his neck and showed his teeth for a second. Natasha and Clint moved to the rear and checked each other's gear with 2 quick taps. Tony lifted off from his flank position and moved without crossing the sanctum cone. Magneto lifted an eyebrow and moved toward the elevator that would take him to the pier's line. He did not run. He arrived. The boom tube held and then coughed out soldiers we all knew. Parademons spilled like a poured bin. Behind them, heavy pressure stepped through. Grey skin. Broad shoulders. Hands at his sides. Eyes that read a line and cut it. Darkseid stepped onto the pier like claiming a square of floor. Pier 36 is now restricted, I said. All civilians evacuate. Police hold at 3 blocks. Press are moved back. No one crosses without clearance. Broadcasting now, Cyborg said. Grid at the pier, Tony said. I can cut the lights and give us a clean field. Do it, I said. Magneto, lock Ferris mass. No shards. I have it, Magneto said. He flattened nails and bolts into sheet pellets and stacked them without sound. Flash moved. In 15 seconds the nearest 5 buildings were empty. Doors shut. People stood behind interior walls. He returned and steadied his breath. Done. Darkseid did not hurry. He looked at the water. He looked at the city. He looked at the sky and saw the ship hanging. He gave it no more attention than a bird. Line set, Batman said through the pier channel. We do not rush him. We hold him here. We do not give him a path to the sanctum or the tower. Parademons came first. They aimed for nearby roofs and for the street. Aurora pushed the air down over the pier and flattened their wings. Aquaman skipped water in sheets along the edge and knocked them into the river. Scott tagged hazard lines on scaffolds and stair landings with clear color. Clint and Natasha cut the front rank to pieces with accurate shots and short bursts. Jean soaked panic from the wind like taking dust out of cloth without adding anything. Logan met 2 that got through, cut them once each, and stepped back. Zatanna set a binding circle on the pier's center and kept it ready. Tony hovered 40 meters up. I will keep drones off your back. Do not tangle with the Omega effect, Batman said. If he fires, you move. You do not test it. Copy, Tony said, and he meant it. Darkseid raised his chin a degree. He did not announce himself. He did not threaten. He let the beams appear. Omega beams, Batman said. Incoming. Lantern, I said calmly into Stewart's line, if he points toward the sanctum, I will set a rule. You will keep the cone flat. I will, Stewart said. The beams cut from Darkseid's eyes in 2 straight lines and then turned as if pulling their own path. They targeted speed and significance. The first aimed toward the highest heat next to the pier. Tony cut altitude at once. The beam curved to follow him. Stark, Steve said. Drop flare and dump heat. Tony ejected 2 panels that took their own heat signatures and flew in opposite arcs. The beam split and followed each for 1 beat. Tony dove toward the river. Aquaman lifted a wall of water that was not solid and yet slowed the beams enough to give Tony a clean angle away. The beams pushed through and turned again. Do not let them touch you, Batman said. Move. Flash took one side and ran the beam's arc into a circle that drew it off the pier and around the industrial block to the same point. He stepped out of the path. The beam curved to find him. Zatanna flicked 2 fingers and spoke a small word. The arc rebounded off an invisible plate and went into the river in a line that boiled fish and then faded. The second beam sought a new target and bent toward the sanctum. I raised my hand by a centimeter. Not there. The beam arced, found a boundary that was not stone, and bent out along the pier's edge like it had found the side of a box. Stewart did not change his cone. Strange did not open the door. Thor and Superman did not move. The beam decided it had never wanted that path and turned back toward the pier. Boundary is live, Batman said. Jean said, crowd behind the police line is starting to panic. I will calm the outer edge only. Do it, I said. Keep your distance. She did. The line steadied. Darkseid's mouth did not move. He adjusted the beam's width. He sent one thin and one thick. The thick went for Aquaman. Aquaman sank into water pressure like a man sitting and let it pass overhead. The thin went for Clint. Clint dropped to the ground without pride and rolled. The beam burned a stripe in the concrete where his head had been. Natasha shot it with a flash bolt that did nothing. She was not surprised. She moved. Magneto, I said, keep their projectiles out of our reach. I am, he said. He turned every loose plate under the parademan's fingers into dead weight that would not move. Aurora brought the wind down harder and pinned wings. Tony gave her a nod in the air she did not need. Flash grabbed 3 and tossed them into Aquaman's water. Aquaman swept them aside for later. Darkseid lowered his head by a centimeter and picked a new target. He chose Batman. Brace, I said. Batman did not flinch. He pivoted his hips and took a single step. The beam curved. He moved again by 2 inches. Zatanna's hand moved. The beam clipped the curve she threw and curved again. Batman moved another inch. The beam chased and missed. It hit the pier's pillar and melted a slot without sparks. Batman moved into a shadow and then out again. Darkseid watched the small motions with interest that was not admiration and not contempt. He moved his eyes the way a carpenter moves a tool. Keep him off, Batman, Steve said on the open net. I have it, Logan said. He ran across the front of the pier without stopping, dragging attention. The beam cut for him and lost the read on Batman. Logan put his hands on his knees and grinned. Come on. He stepped away at once when Diana's voice came through. Do not taunt. Move, she said. Logan moved. Darkseid stepped toward the edge. He did not run. He took his time. The pier groaned. Magneto held the beams in the structure steady without shifting them. He did not challenge Darkseid's pressure. He supported the wood and steel so it would not collapse. Thank you, Batman said. Hold your line, Magneto said. Aquaman's jaw flexed. I will hold it. Parademons tried to open the flank by climbing a crane. Magneto crushed the crane into a safe block before they could throw pieces. He set it down gently. Tony noted it and rolled away. Featherine, Stuart said, Thanos moved 5 degrees. Hatch cracked. Logged, I said. He is observing. Superman's brow creased. We remain. Yes, I said. Darkseid fired again. Both beams split at once and curved toward 2 points, Stark's heat and the brightest meta signature on the pier Aurora, when she lowered pressure hard. Aurora lifted her hands and let the pressure go. The beam lost that target and moved to the next Aquaman, then to the next Zatanna, then to the next Flash. Flash changed direction twice and then ran up the side of a container and jumped. The beam followed, saw he was no longer there, and turned toward Clint again. Clint fired 2 arrows into the path. They did nothing. He rolled without caring about dignity. The beam cut concrete again and went dark. Next, Batman said. Darkseid stopped firing. He did not pant. He did not shake. He watched the team, as if he was counting their ranges. He lifted a hand, not for beams, for weight. The pier bowed by 2 centimeters. Aquaman, I said. I have it, he said. He pushed water underneath and spread the load sideways. The pier stopped moving. Zatanna drew a rune low and plain on the pier's face to stiffen it. Done. Tony hovered and lowered a net that did not touch anyone and would keep drones away. He did not drop lower. He did not look at the beams. He watched Darkseid's hands. Flash ran the perimeter and then stopped at Batman's shoulder. 30 seconds and I can move all the parademon bodies into the barge. Do it, Batman said. Flash did. He did not trip. He did not get cocky. He moved bodies and returned to Batman's shoulder. Done. Good, Batman said. Darkseid turned his head a fraction and looked toward the sanctum. The ship above shifted in the same direction. He looked toward the tower. He looked back at the pier. He stepped forward again. He was not frustrated. He was simply applying his normal method. Boundary holds, I said. At Bleecker, Stuart lowered his chin and breathed. I can take a second skin to the pier if needed. You will not leave the cone, I said. Jordan is inbound. Copy, Stuart said. Strange's hands were still. Wang was steady. Thor kept his feet set. Superman did not break his stance. Hela watched from her pole and did not move. At the tower, Steve watched the numbers. Vision watched the door. Wanda kept her back to the vestibule. Diana checked the seam with a fingertip and returned her hand to the shield. Magneto held the outer hall. He was quiet. Darkseid broke his quiet with motion. He turned his head straight at Batman and fired the beams at knee height. Batman stepped onto a pallet that Magneto slid a half-inch without changing its orientation. The beams grazed the edge where his foot had been and cut air. Zatanna drew a tight box under the beams and set a rule that they could not touch her mark. They arced around it and went wide. Darkseid turned his eyes toward the river. Aquaman raised both hands and pushed a slab of water into the beams. The slab boiled and blew away in a white cloud. The beams cut through and then died. Parademons, Aurora said. New wave. They fell out of the tube and hit the cone of wind she had set with nasty flaps. Clint and Natasha took them with exacting efficiency. Scott marked hazard lines. Jean kept people calm. Logan cut one wing, then stepped back. Aquaman rammed two into the barge and held them under. Zatanna bound three together and kicked the rope's knots tight. Batman moved forward one step. His cape did not flap. He raised one hand to signal. The team adjusted by feet and inches. Darkseid did not chase the team. He did not throw himself into their square. He stepped to the very edge of the pier and looked down at the water. He looked toward the sanctum one more time. Boundary, I said again. I did not raise my voice. Darkseid shifted his eyes. The beams moved toward Bleecker in a curve that did not use air. They reached the boundary and held like magnets pressed to glass. They tried to smear and slid. Stuart did not adjust the cone. Strange did not open. Thor and Superman did not flinch. The beams bent back. They returned to the pier and died. Tony's exhale clicked in his mask. That is as weird as it looks. It is, Batman said. Do not test it. Not planning to, Tony said. Darkseid gave no sign that anything had changed for him. He held out his hand slightly as if reading currents. He looked at the tower next. I felt him test the warding by angle and by absence. The vestibule did not respond. The vault did not shift. Wanda felt the touch like a hand on a window and did not let it in. Diana raised the shield a hair and brought the rim against the doorframe with a precise tap. The sound was small and real. Vision breathed evenly. Steve did not move. No entry, I said. He will not cross. Darkseid lowered his hand. He looked toward the sky again in Thanos's direction, not to coordinate, not to ally, only to account. Thanos did not answer. He stayed in lane. Batman's voice in my ear stayed low. We keep him here until he chooses to withdraw or until core relief arrives. We do not escalate. We do not take bait. Correct, I said. Jordan in 60 seconds. Fate holds the doomsday seal. Strange holds the sanctum. Tower holds. Parademons made one more push and then stopped. They hovered where the wind slowed and darted at ankles and wrists and got swatted or bound or drowned. They were not effective now that the lines were set. Darkseid fired again. The beams cut in tight curls toward Jean. She did not move. Cyclops shouted once and took a step in front of her without thinking. The beam curved toward his visor. Jean lifted one hand and pulled Scott to her by his belt with a simple telekinesis that did not enter his mind. The beam hit concrete where he had stood and sliced a clean line. "Thank you," Scott said. He did not smirk. He moved in front of her again with better posture. He did not grandstand. Jean exhaled and kept her eyes open. "I'm fine." "Stay behind me," he said. "I am," she said. Jordan came out of the sky with a tight green wake and cut his speed a block out. He landed by Stewart and read the cone in one glance. "Copy." "You take second skin," Stewart said. "Do not play with it." "Got it," Jordan said. He slipped his will into the second layer and did not flare it for show. It took. The cone brightened by a fraction that only we saw. Darkseid noted the change. He sent a beam at the sanctum again. It hit the boundary and slid. He stopped firing. He closed his eyes for one breath and opened them. He made a micro-expression that read as a kind of interest. He lifted his hand and set it down. "Bifrost," Thor said softly. "Heimdall?" I asked. Thor said. He listened. "He sees apocalypse lanes open far out." "Not here." "Good," I said. "We hold this." Darkseid did what he has done on other worlds when a line held. He turned to his flank and attacked the thing that supported our balance, the river. He did not try to blast it. He tried to pull it out from under our use. He aimed to flood the east side and force us to split. Aquaman felt the tug first. "He is taking the river," Aquaman said, jaw clenched. He pushed back with both hands. The water jerked and then settled. "Not today." Zatanna dropped to a knee, drew her finger through the air, and spoke a word that slid into the river like a weight. The water slowed. "Brakes." Aquaman exhaled. "Thank you." Darkseid looked at the water with mild attention and then let it go. He returned his eyes to the line. "Featherine," Batman said, "we have our lanes. We can hold this for an hour if he doesn't change the angle." "We hold," I said. Thanos's ship shifted one more time and stopped. He did not descend. He did not send Ma. He marked Darkseid's presence in the boundary that made the beams turn and he made a note of it. Superman looked at the pier for one breath and then back up. "We will hold." Thor steadied his stance. "We will." Strange's hands were steady again. Wong held the lower anchors. Stewart and Jordan shared the cone like professionals. Hela watched and did not lift her hand. The police line stood. The cameras stayed at fixed heights. Civilians stayed indoors. The tower did not move. The vault did not flex. The sanctum door stayed closed. The doomsday seal did not stir. Darkseid flexed his fingers and fired again, not at men, at the boundary itself. The beam slid and bent away. He watched the slide. He tested it with 3 variations. He made a 4th and stopped. He did not waste effort on a wall he could not crack in that minute. He turned his head to the side and listened to something that was not our sound. He decided this was not the hour. He stepped back 1 step, then another. The boom tube flared. He did not look at anyone on the pier. He stepped into the column and left. The tube snapped shut. The air went dull. Parademons that had not died yet tried to fly. Aurora pressed air down. Clint and Natasha finished the last with clean shots. Aquaman pushed bodies into a quiet corner of the river for removal. Zatanna closed her bindings. Batman stepped forward and looked at the place where the boom tube had been. He said nothing. He raised his left hand and closed it. "Pier is secure," he said. "Sanctum is secure," Strange said. "Tower is secure," Steve said. "Transit remains open to the ship above," Cyborg said. No jump. We keep the lines, I said. No one relaxes. Thanos is waiting. Darkseid is not gone. We hold our rotations. We keep the stones where they are. They acknowledged. Thor wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and looked up. Superman touched his brow again and lowered his hand. Stuart breathed. Jordan rolled his shoulders. Wong and Strange rechecked a mark. Hela lowered her hand. Aquaman looked at the water and rolled his neck. Aurora looked at the sky and flexed her fingers. Jean pulled a kink out of her thumb. Scott rechecked his visor. Logan sniffed and spat to the side. Natasha checked a magazine. Clint twanged his bow once and stopped. Batman turned and walked toward the lift. Tony hovered and dropped 10 meters and rose again. I kept my hand up. The city did not move. We were not finished.